This is Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
With the beginning of mandatory minicamp yesterday, we got to hear from some of the players of the Philadelphia Eagles. We got to hear from the head coach talking football for a change and not just what happened last season. So you'll hear from head coach Nick Sirianni today. But something that has been stuck on my brain, I know it's been stuck on John's brain too. Something said by Jeff McClain toward the end of our conversation with him yesterday. Are we overrating this Eagles roster? It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
This is Kincade Salciunas.
Stars in cities, especially like Philadelphia, they are always on the map, and we should expect more winning out of them.
And we'll go to the Eagles and Jalen Hurts. I am a believer that your best player, I think there is also a responsibility as the team spokesperson.
Kincade Salciunas. John Kincade, Andrew Salciunas.
97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
And a good Wednesday morning, Philadelphia. I'm Andrew Salciunas alongside my man, John Kincade. Johnny, good morning.
How you doing, traffic boy?
Yeah, dude. Like, what are we doing? Shutting down 76 to one lane. Don't they know that there's people that get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do work?
I think they do, but they figure that less idiots exist.
Oh, really?
Like us.
Wait, this isn't the norm?
Well, I think they figure that it's probably not the highest of achievers.
Ah, okay.
That are up at 4 in the morning driving on the road.
Hey, I saw a person with a Lithuanian bumper sticker in front of me, so
Okay.
don't you dare say
Who
that
was
us.
it?
I don't know.
You mean you didn't find them?
Oh, it's 4:30 in the morning. It's dark out. I have to drive 70 miles an hour. I'm not really getting a good look at this driver. Anyways.
You really don't do 70, though, for the policemen that are listening. He really does, and he
Yeah,
does.
it's more 80. Yeah, more 85.
That's good.
Depending on the time of day. All right, so mandatory minicamp began yesterday. We'll get into the Phillies in a little bit. Phillies with a nice win yesterday.
Really nice.
But mandatory minicamp began yesterday for the Eagles. Minicamp, period, for the first time in the tenure of head coach Nick Sirianni. So you got to see some of the guys out there working. The only person that wasn't there was Landon Dickerson. With an excused absence, predetermined absence. You know why? He probably saw this. He probably booked this week off and then got the memo that they were having mandatory minicamp. He goes, I thought we didn't do this in Philadelphia. But he's the only guy that wasn't there. Everybody else was there. Everybody that's ready to go. Everybody that's fighting for a roster spot. It's great. So minicamp starts yesterday. But before we even get to what Nick Sirianni had to say, John, Jeff McClain, at the end of our conversation yesterday.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jeff.
Said something that's just been burnt into my mind.
The minute I always write stuff down as we go. I'll write stuff down and I'll say, okay, I heard this. Let's see if we can spin it into something later. When he talked yesterday about overvaluing the roster, he has more questions about this year's roster. I wondered to myself, are we overvaluing it? You use the expression sometimes, are we looking to it through like Eagles colored glasses or
Yes.
Phillies colored glasses? I tend to believe that I don't. And I also tend to believe that over the years of consuming Jeff's product, that he is more skeptical than most.
I believe so, yeah.
Not negative.
Not hater.
But he's skeptical.
Yeah.
He wants to see it before believing it. And it's clear he believes less. Going in, he needs to see more out of
Which
this
is
group.
interesting when the team was 10-1 at one point last year, had the collapse that it did.
That is correct.
And I think everybody has had the same sort of mentality that it'll be better this year. I said NFC Championship game appearance or bust just last week to you guys. I wonder when we have the SB or B conversation when Brian Westbrook at the Brian Dawkins golf outing the other day talks about how this offseason that the Eagles had reminded him of the offseason when the Eagles got T.O., but with the Eagles getting Saquon. So all of a sudden you're going to start thinking, like, the Super Bowl conversation is coming at some point. We're just holding off. It's only June. I don't want to get to that conversation just yet. But let's hear from Jeff McClain, who joined us yesterday. He joins us every single Tuesday. And here he is talking about the Eagles roster. And as you mentioned, John, how he has more questions for this year's roster than last year's.
I feel like the roster was stronger. I got young guys in training camp. There's a lot of stuff to be played out, but I feel like the roster was stronger going into last season, the way I felt about it. There's more question marks on the defensive side. Again, I mean, they lost basically their two best players, Fletcher Cox and Haason Reddick, right? I mean, if you're looking at it kind of objectively.
Yeah, that is objective.
And who did you replace those guys with. I think Bryce Huff certainly has the potential. You brought back Josh Sweat, but you're still kind of asking a lot of these young guys, Nolan Smith and Jordan Davis. Those guys didn't really perform. I think Nolan didn't play a lot. Jordan kind of petered out down the stretch.
So he's very...
Prove it.
Yeah.
It sounds less negative when you hear it again. Whenever I hear soundbite the second time, I guess I'm preparing for what I want to take out of it. So it sounds less negative, but Jeff's skepticism rings true.
It's skeptical. I mean, he's straight up saying he has more question marks about this year's defense compared to last year's defense, which was what? Ranked bottom third?
It was they were 30th.
Right.
They were bottom third. They were 30th out of 32 teams.
Right. Okay. So worse than bottom third.
And that is where I think that Jeff's not being negative. He's being skeptical.
Oh, he's being skeptical, but that scares me when he's pointing out that he has more questions for this defense compared to a defense last year that was ranked 30th out of 32 teams last year.
That horrifies me.
So question number one for the audience today, and what we're going to discuss now, and you can text in or call in at 610-632-0975, are we overrating this Eagles roster, and are we ignoring the defense too much? So it's kind of a two-part question. The reason why I say are we overrating this Eagles roster, I think we all have the same mentality that we had last year. Oh, well, the offense will overcome any of the defense.
Absolutely.
Issues. We said that last year. What happened?
Absolutely did.
What happened? It didn't overcome.
Well, it did. It did until it didn't.
Until it didn't.
It's one of those things. It's what I always say.
Ultimately, it didn't.
Is that when people tell you little things don't matter, they matter. They end up mattering at some point. It's just a matter when it's going to come back and bite you in the backside. Last year it did.
It did.
In a big way.
So are we overrating this roster, and are we ignoring the defense too much? Now, Jeff has questions about the defense. So let's talk this one out a little bit.
Sure.
I like these questions more than last year.
Really?
Well,
okay, give me why.
All right.
Lead me through your questions that you feel better about this year than last year.
So it's not necessarily whether I feel better. I just enjoy the questions more. Hear me out.
Okay, I hear you.
Haason Reddick, you knew that the end was coming soon, right? This is the beginning of Bryce Huff.
I didn't think there was any way Haason Reddick was not going to be here this year.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But he's pushing 30. He's over the age of 30. So you knew he wasn't going to be the same player in his prime. At least I have a guy at this state of their lives. Bryce Huff has a higher ceiling at this stage of his life than Haason Reddick does. Haason Reddick might have
at his shelf life.
I mean, he's 5 years younger than him.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm going to agree with you on that because I looked at and did a pretty deep dive on Huff's stats last year.
Right.
A lot of it was garbage eating.
Okay, I got you.
It was garbage time. He padded his numbers in a lot of non-clutch situations.
Okay, fair. At this stage of their lives, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter have higher upside than what Fletcher Cox had last year.
Absolutely, and both of them, I think, will benefit from that year that they got under their belt and the second year that Jordan Davis did. We can already see Jordan Davis's resolve to be excellent.
Yep.
Is showing in his preparation.
At this stage of their lives, I would say Isaiah Rodgers, higher upside than the oft-injured Avonte Maddox, and Quinyon Mitchell. I don't even know who the other second corner is because yesterday James Bradberry was lining up as
Keely Ringo.
Right. Okay.
I think
higher of Quinyon Mitchell than Keely Ringo.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I'm feeling good. I mean, I feel good about those. Those questions make me smile.
Right. So
the secondary questions make me smile.
And there's youth to it. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Like for me, when I hear Jeff have all those questions, he's absolutely correct to have those questions because how many times have we seen high draft picks not pan out? We've seen it a million times in the NFL. But at least I have upside with these guys. I did not have upside with Miles Jack, who ended up retiring before the season even started. I didn't have upside with Zach Cunningham at linebacker last year, or Nicholas Moreau last year, or James Bradberry last year when it clearly looked like he had lost more than just a step.
Wait a minute, though. You were all for signing Bradberry last summer. You wanted him back.
And then I ended up being wrong.
Well, no, so like going
and now Quinyon Mitchell.
But if I turn the calendar back a year, you were high on that.
Yeah. I was high on James Bradberry and Darius Slay. I was not high on the middle of the secondary or linebacker. I mean, one of my biggest concerns was middle of the field. I didn't think Fletcher Cox would have the year that he had last year. I didn't want to expect or demand too much of my first-round pick, and Jalen Carter's a rookie. I don't really think that highly of Jordan Davis to make that much of an impact. The linebackers we already knew were trash. I don't like Reed Blankenship, and I didn't like the idea that, there was no second safety until the week leading up to week 1? We didn't know who that second safety was. There is I know it's only minicamp, but there's an idea of who your defense might be next year already. And I like that. I like that much better. So I enjoy these questions more than the questions I had last year. We'll find out if those questions are answered, whether or not they're good or bad, though. I mean, that's the concerning thing. That, again, it seems like going into another Eagles season where I have the Lamborghini offensively, I have a lot of questions defensively.
I love the fact, though, that there's no way that you have the 30th. You have the 30th defense in the NFL last year.
Yeah,
and Vic Fangio comes in. The minute he walks in the door, if Vic Fangio, if he breaks wind, they're going to be the 20th. Just walking in the door, they're going to be the 20th best.
Right.
They're going to be so significantly better just having his guidance that 30th becomes 20th.
Right.
And then it's a matter of, can he really take them, though, from 20th? And I talked about it earlier, is top 12.
Top 12. That's been the mark.
He tends to deliver around that on average.
Right. And look, if you can get top 12, and if your defense is or offense, and I said this to you last week,
top 3.
This offense should be top 3. There's no excuses for it. Don't give me new coordinator, no preseason, no continuity. No, there's actually plenty of continuity. The only guy that's new is Saquon Barkley. No excuses. This offense should be top 3. And if you give me a top 12 mark defensively, they should get to the NFC Championship game. So answer question number 1 for us. It's a two-parter at 610-632-0975. Are we overrating this Eagles roster, and are we ignoring the defense too much? So, John, I'll ask you, are we ignoring the defense too much? We're so excited about the offense.
I don't believe we are. Because I think that whenever anyone talks about this upcoming year, the critical tone comes through. The questions come through. Sometimes with some of these players, I believe some fans have already written the book on a Jordan Davis, who, by the way, again, was 7th. The 7th best at his position last year in the NFL. Over the entire course of the year, statistically, he was 7th best. But people have written that season off as if it was terrible. I think there are people who have already written books on some of these guys. Their opinion is already made. So it's going to be up to this team to show them.
Yeah. And look,
hey,
in fairness to a lot of those fans, they also want Kyle Hamilton.
No, well,
there were a lot.
I did too. You know that.
And even I'm not writing off Jordan Davis, but I'd still rather have Kyle Hamilton.
Well,
and I wanted that draft day. Like, it's not. I'm not doing revisionist history here. I wanted that draft day, and then I see him turn into an All-Pro safety,
in his second year,
which would be really nice, by the way, to have, because I still have questions about the safety position because I don't know what Reed Blankenship is. I don't know what Cooper DeJean's going to turn out to be. I still don't know where he's going to play. I saw him lining up outside yesterday, slot, safety. They're going to move him all over the place.
The Justin Jefferson thing always comes up with Howie Roseman. Justin Jefferson, Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. Oh, my God, what a mistake. It is so much easier to fix wide receiver in the NFL than it is to fix safety.
Yeah.
And it was sitting
right
there in front of them. They didn't do it. And they would have, by the way, they would have had a very cost-effective option, too.
Yes, it would have been. Connor, you're Mr. Holly Jolly, positive all the time as much as you can be. Are we ignoring the defense too much when we talk about this Eagles team?
No, I don't think we are.
Okay.
Like, I think it's become such a focus after last year. There's no way to ignore it. They were a major, major issue with this team.
You don't think people are ignoring it?
No.
I don't.
Every Eagle fan Twitter account. I follow a lot of people on Twitter. It's it's the Photoshop jersey of Saquon. It's
right.
It's offense.
Offense is more fun, but going into the draft, what were we all talking about? Us, the beat reporters, the fan base, defense. Just because now when we get to see them, everyone's going to be more excited about the offense because that's the modern NFL game. But it doesn't mean people are ignoring the defense.
Okay.
I mean, I don't believe ignoring is the issue. And I think there's a lot of people who are honestly just overly negative on the defense. I'm expecting
I'm not overly negative of it.
No, I don't believe you are. I believe there is a huge bounce back coming.
Absolutely.
Huge.
That's what I believe as well.
And so I don't believe people are over. I think they're just people that are set in stone already that are going to have their opinions have to be moved. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with somebody that has an opinion as long as they're basing it on pretty much, hey, like saying, look, statistically, this is this. Here's the facts I'm basing it on. If they have to have their opinion moved by seeing it, I think I totally get it.
Especially after what you saw last year.
Yes.
Like when you saw it go the way that it did last season, and now there's a lot more youth this year, then yeah, I don't blame anybody who has to see it. So are we overrating the Eagles roster, and are we ignoring the defense too much? 610-632-0975. The other question.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to tell you right now the answer is no for me.
Wait a minute. You never answer the question before giving it.
Well, I'm saying no. I'm saying no.
You're saying no before you even give it.
But it's because I need to have backbone.
Okay.
And we've had this conversation before about flip-flopping.
Okay.
And how we shouldn't do it.
We should not do that. That is correct.
Are you willing to go into this season, 2024, with a clean slate for Nick Sirianni?
I absolutely am.
I know you are.
Because
I got smudges all over the whiteboard.
And here's the reason. I absolutely, for many years of my life, lived it exactly like you're doing this year. So I've learned by experience that it's worth giving him a shot at it, because I'm going to take his players' word for it.
Okay.
I'm going to take guys who have covered the team, and we've heard it from Andrew DiCecco and Jeff McClain, that in the locker room, I've been around enough teams where if a coach sucks or if a coach is dumb or unqualified, you hear it.
Yeah, it's known.
You hear it through the whisper campaign.
It's known, right.
You haven't heard that on Sirianni.
Okay.
From his players. So I'm willing to say maybe my perception is wrong. I'll give it a shot.
Okay. You're going clean slate. Connor, you, like me, did not want him back here this year. Are you willing to go into this season with a clean slate for Nick Sirianni?
Bro, hell no.
Okay.
How in the world does he get a clean slate? I think he was a huge part of the problem last year.
Yes, me too. And I know,
think that's fair to say
I know you say that the locker room doesn't hate him and all that kind of stuff, which is great. I'm glad. But I also wonder if there's people wondering why he didn't have any answers. Because he didn't have any answers.
Wait a minute. I'm not saying that I don't have those same questions.
Right.
And I guarantee you that there were people in that locker room that felt it. But
especially when Jalen Hurts, there's the story that comes out from Tim McManus the day of the playoff game that he did not like the direction of the offense and had asked for the offense to change, and nobody would go with Jalen Hurts once.
And I think we'll hear little breadcrumbs from players that even spoke yesterday about their disgust as to how things were handled last year.
Yep.
But it doesn't seem like a lot of that is blown back on Nick Sirianni. When a manager or a coach sucks and their players don't like them or their players don't believe in them, you always hear it.
Right, you hear it.
You didn't hear it. And two guys, again, in Jeff McClain and our own Andrew DiCecco, who are in that locker room on a daily basis, have never come away saying, yeah, there's a lot of discord against him.
I wonder if there's going to be the same wait and see from a lot of Eagles fans. You know how you said wait and see with the Eagles defense before you get too excited for the Eagles defense? I wonder how much wait and see is going to be for Nick Sirianni for a lot of people.
And I don't think that's unfair. Again, I'm not criticizing. If somebody's in that boat, I'm not like where you and Connor are. I am not criticizing you guys at all. I've lived a little more, and I'm saying history tells me give him a clean slate, let him show it. But I will be quick to join you.
Okay.
If I see the same garbage happening.
Water's warm, man.
Yeah, no, that's because you two pee in the pool.
Yeah, absolutely, man. All those cocktails.
What, am I supposed to get out?
It's water. It all goes the same place.
Until you're just rotten.
610-632-0975. You can text in, call in. Are we overrating the Eagles roster? Are we ignoring the defense too much? And are you willing to go into this season with a clean slate for Nick Sirianni? Do want to mention Phil's good win yesterday. Nick Castellanos.
Yes.
Finally, an extra innings game goes our way because it's been a rough season. Under 500 record this year.
5-6.
Yes.
And Connor bringing up this morning, I did not know the most extra inning games in baseball.
When he said that, I was like, yeah, that seems about right because it felt like way too many.
Well, 11 out of 62 have gone to extra innings.
That's actually a lot.
That is a lot.
That's a high
when
percentage.
You think of it that
11
way.
out of 62.
I mean, and
they're winning as many games as they are, right? So you're surprised that it goes to extras as many times as they have?
My wife told me at dinner last night, if she was made what's the person who runs baseball? I said, commissioner? Yeah. Yes. First thing I would do would be get rid of that stupid runner on second base.
It works during the regular season, man. That game only went 10 innings because of it.
What time did you wake up this morning?
Yeah, exactly. Woke up at 4
I
o'clock.
woke up at 4.
I'm not watching 17 innings anymore, Johnny.
No, I get you.
Roman Quinn pitching in the 17th inning. Like we're done with those
days. No, wait a
minute.
Could you put it? How about this? I said to her, could we play the 10th normal? Could we play the 11th with the runner on first?
I'd rather just do the runner on first in the 10th inning.
Okay, well then that's your compromise. I'd like to have one inning of extra innings the same, and then go to the 11th, put the runner on first.
I'd rather novel concept here. Win it in 9.
Yeah,
the
win it in 9.
The runner on second is stupid.
Yeah, because a little bloop single changes
that hit last night just game over.
Yeah,
one hit. That sucks.
Hey, but they
win,
shut him down the top. They shut him down the top of the 10th. You got to do that first before Castellanos
going
gets
nuts.
the hit. Yeah, he's been great this year. And thank God Rhys Hoskins got out in the 9th inning.
Multiple times last night.
Yeah, but in the 9th inning, I did not want to see him do something well and then fans cheer about it.
He did get some boos last night, though.
Good, he deserved them. He's not a Philly anymore.
Yeah.
We got the flowers out of the way in game 1. All right?
They weren't very kind to him last night.
No, not so much. Kind or unkind, Connor? Because they booed him? Unkind?
That was the fine reaction like I told you they were going to have.
All right, coming up next, we get your reaction on the text line and the phone line. And also, we have been vindicated. Vindicated. One of my biggest issues with Sirianni is attitude to something specific. Dismissive. And I got the backing of one of your favorite players, Philadelphia. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Adam Schefter days. Schefter will be joining the show coming up at 8 o'clock. Can't wait to talk to ESPN's Adam Schefter as we do every single week. But what we're starting the show off with, are we overrating the Eagles roster? Are we ignoring the defense too much? We had Jeff McClain on yesterday who talked about his questions on the defensive side of the ball, and he has more questions this year about the defensive side of the ball than last year. Now, let's think. You're right, John. I was excited about both Darius Slay and James Bradberry. What were our questions? I'm trying to rewind my brain.
Horrible linebacker play from the previous year, even when they went to the Super Bowl.
Right.
No. We should say subpar linebacker play, and then they lost
TJ Edwards.
But well, also too, they were bringing in guys off the street.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of questions. This time last year,
TJ Edwards and Kazir White the year before, and then
Kazir White was just a tackling machine.
Yeah,
that's all he was. He
which was Zach Cunningham last year.
He rarely made tackles behind the line. He barely made, but he was a dependable guy.
Right, absolutely.
You could just count on him to do things.
Well, also, you lost Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who was a big part of that team.
That was huge.
That went to the Super Bowl. Reed Blankenship was going to probably be your number one safety. We weren't sure.
Not probably. No. Day one of camp, it was Reed Blankenship and
right, but we're in mini camp. At this point, we thought there still might be a move.
We thought there might be a move.
Good point. Yeah, Buda Baker. Remember that name was mentioned a million times.
That was over
season.
And over.
Yeah, but I think I don't know. Yes, I have questions about some of the young players and Bryce Huff, but I'm trying to think if I had more questions last year or maybe more concerns. I think my questions aren't as concerning this year. My questions were concerning last year. They literally had a linebacker retire 1 week into training camp.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting anything of them.
No, me neither. But then you're they were bringing guys in because I think they didn't believe in Nakobe Dean all that much. And one guy just straight up retired. Nakobe Dean couldn't stay healthy.
I feel better about linebacker. So
I do too.
This year,
I do
feel better.
Questions surrounding them.
I have major questions, but I still feel better about the talent level that's there.
You mentioned Vic Fangio stepping in here could literally just change everything, right?
Yes.
Devin White stepped in here. He was the best linebacker on the team.
Yeah, and that's not saying a lot.
That's not saying a lot, but he is the best linebacker the second he steps in into NovaCare this year.
By the way, in case you missed it, you want to put a little smile on your face.
Please.
From Rich Zamini covering the Jets. You know that Haason Reddick has never spoken to Robert Saleh.
Yeah, I heard. I read a lot of the tweets coming out of New York yesterday.
And is passing on $250,000 in bonus by showing up for work. So are we starting to see now that Haason Reddick was maybe a problem they had to move on from?
The
Jets are not happy.
I'm sure they're not because they probably expected him to get there with or without the new deal. Yeah, he did.
And he's not following. Not following up on his word. What he said he was going to do as a Jet, he's not following up on it. Maybe we're finding out now that Howie was a forward thinker.
I asked you yesterday, did we dodge a bullet with the Haason Reddick situation? And
and that's praising his last few years.
Right.
He was amazing.
He's still the best edge rusher. Look, he is still Devin White stepping in here is the best linebacker. If Haason Reddick walked back into NovaCare today, he's your best edge rusher.
Sure.
There's no question about it. But there's obviously questions surrounding his future when he doesn't have the contract yet with the Jets, and he didn't even show up to OTAs. We'll see if he shows up to minicamp next week.
Talking to his
not even talking yet to the new head coach.
See, that to me is a problem.
Even if
you want the new contract, you're not even talking to your new head coach. That's a problem.
Yeah, it's a bit of a problem. Connor, what do we have coming in on the text line? I do want to read a tweet first from our man Joe. He goes, since when have we ever overvalued a Philly team other than it being the Sixers' year again? The Flyers will finally make the playoffs, and the Eagles are the gold standard with a quarterback factory. Since when have we ever overvalued a team in Philly?
Well, if he penciled in the playoffs last year for the Flyers, that's on him. That's on him.
No, I don't think he penciled it in. I think at some point he probably thought.
If he did that.
I think he's saying that in a mocking way that a lot of people thought that it could be the year that they finally broke through.
Oh, sure.
So what do we have on the text line, Connor? You can text the show, 610-632-0975. Are we overrating this Eagles roster? Are we ignoring the defense too much? And are you willing to go into this season with a clean slate for Nick Sirianni? I say no, but, that's because I'm hard-headed.
That's because you're mean.
But what do we have on the text line,
You're unkind.
Connor?
Jay from Westchester checks in. He's being very kind this morning.
Okay.
He does say, Connor, I know you hate that I text you like we're having a side conversation. I actually love that. I love when people text in and everything. So keep doing that. But is it possible that Sirianni didn't have an answer because what we all believe is true, that he doesn't really do all that much? So the players really like him because it's not like he dictates anything in that locker room.
It could look. I think he didn't have an answer last year because he might not be this bright offensive mind that we were told about when he first got hired. Right, that's what we heard.
There's nothing unfair about that.
No, like it seems like that's how it's playing out. And again, let me make it clear: I don't need him to be the offensive play caller. I don't. I'm okay with my head coach making sure everything goes smoothly. The problem is he wasn't calling plays last year, and everything was not going smoothly.
Right. I think it's an interesting thought about why players have defended him to some extent, though, and why the locker room seems to be behind him.
I would tell you this. Is that, yes, players will back a coach or something that they like, sort of substitute teacher thing sometimes.
That's exactly the example I was going to use.
But players will never back a coach that they think is a buffoon, that they think is not preparing them to win, that they think is giving them, that they think is not helping them win games.
See, now you have made the point that a lot of people have reported that there have been no issues with Sirianni.
And
there have been some players that spoke out publicly in defense for him.
Yes.
But the most important player is not.
No, and the most important player
Jalen Hurts.
is now the thing is, they may have had issues. But when I hear other players step up on behalf of him, it makes me wonder again, do those players look at Jalen and say, you're being a bit of a B?
And that's why leadership has been questioned a lot. So we'll see how that plays out.
That question, that line came up. He needs to lead from Brian Westbrook.
Yes.
He needs to lead the way they expect him to lead this year.
Yeah, and not just on the field of play, it seemed like when B. West said that. Yeah. Again, a guy who's still very connected with the Eagles organization.
Yes, he is.
All right, so I mentioned it before we go to the break, and we'll get to more texts coming up this hour. We've been vindicated, or at least I've been, but I believe you probably had a similar frustration.
All right.
So first, let me play this clip from Nick Sirianni. Here he is talking about his new offensive coordinator yesterday. Nick Sirianni spoke for the first time football-wise, which was great. It's not combine, it's not draft talk, not free agency. For the first time, he gets to talk about the Eagles actually playing football at mandatory minicamp yesterday, and he talked about his new offensive coordinator.
You know, I think Kellen's doing an awesome job of leading the offense. I think he's doing an awesome job in front of the room, out in the field. Really pleased with Kellen. He's as advertised and excited about the direction we're going and work that they're putting in on the offensive side.
As advertised. Yes. And John, I want you to have the floor. Part of the stuff that you've pointed out have been the incredible numbers for wide receivers, tight ends, quarterbacks.
Just a few, real quick. When Kellen Moore has his number one quarterback, best offensive coordinator since he's been calling plays in the NFL in getting wide receivers catches in space.
And the reason why you say his quarterback, there was times
where Dak
Dallas,
got hurt. Andy Dalton,
and then last year with the Chargers.
He had to run him with the Chargers when he had to with
Herbert got hurt.
Was it Easton Stick? Yeah. He had to come up with. I think that's a deodorant. I'm not sure. But so when he is his number one quarterback, he is the best offensive coordinator at finding space for wide receivers to catch the ball in space. So his schemes are excellent. He is also one of the top guys for motion, and he is also a guy who puts his quarterback under center. I am so Kellen Moored up. If this doesn't work here, I'm going to almost be convinced that it's not on him.
Okay. Wow,
that it's not on him, that it is on
pretty amazing.
The guy that is actually running the plays.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned motion because
I like this.
You talked about getting in space.
Yes.
And number one wide receivers getting in space. Here's Devontae Smith yesterday talking about the ability to get open in this offense.
I would say it just give you more space at times. You know, when you get in bunches and things like that, guys don't press as much, and it kind of confuses the defense. So it just gives you more space and opportunity to do things.
Devontae Smith points this out after one mandatory minicamp, a couple of days of OTAs, and probably a couple of days of watching film of what Kellen Moore did. Space. He also used the word motion. You mentioned the word motion.
That's all you. Honestly, if you just go down the Kellen Moore rabbit hole on YouTube, which I've done, and believe me, it's a dark and crazy place. It's just It looks nothing like the offense we saw last year. And honestly, I got to tell you, it looks nothing like the offense of 2022.
And that's why I say myself, but I'm sure you guys as well, we have been vindicated because I had to hear Sirianni multiple times last year as the offensive guru head coach that he's supposed to be. Oh, we don't motion just to motion.
It was a condescending to the media.
It was dismissive.
It was condescending to the media to be like, I know what you guys want me to do.
Right. And it happened and it happened like 3 different times last year where he poo-pooed motion. I remember one of the first times was before the Dolphins game because the Dolphins were running pre-snap motion at a historic clip. Remember earlier in the season before they played the Eagles, they scored 70 points in a game?
Against
the Denver Broncos. I know the Broncos suck, but 70 points, you don't do that even against bad teams in the NFL. Pre-snap motion is something that is not just good for your wide receivers to get open in space. It's also for the quarterback to get information on the defense. And for a while, that offense could not get anything going last year. I have been vindicated, John.
Now the question is this, though. Do you not run motion because you don't want to? This is my only thought. It is not an aspersion towards Jalen Hurts, but it's a question. Because you don't think your quarterback can decipher at the line of scrimmage.
I think if he could be coached up enough,
he should be able to. Well, one thing
we had no issues with this 2 years ago. There were no issues. He was not a one-read quarterback 2 years ago with Shane Steichen.
When you put a quarterback constantly in the shotgun, I think it's one of those reasons that you say you're already telling people maybe they don't decipher well at the line of scrimmage.
Maybe, but
they need a little extra time.
We weren't talking about this 2 years ago.
Nope.
Last year when he had bad coaches around him, we talked about it. There's no excuses this year.
None.
The numbers are there. Kellen Moore is great, and I've been vindicated. Nick Sirianni, you're poo-pooing of pre-snap motion. You're in the wrong, and you're a head coach of a football team. That's why he's not got no clean slate for me, Johnny Kincade.
I like that.
All right, coming up next.
I'm not agreeing with you.
Are we overrating this Eagles roster? Are we ignoring something about the defense? You mentioned your love for Vic Fangio. Andrew DeCecco did as well. We'll play you something yesterday that might make you feel better about this year and how he might get more out of certain players this season. You'll hear that next. Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Bob Cooney talking with the newsmakers.
97.5 The Fanatic. Talking Eagles to start the show. Are mixing in the Phillies as well. Nice win yesterday. Good to see Nick Castellanos with the game-winning double yesterday in the bottom of the 10th inning. So another win for the Phillies. They just continue to roll. They win another series. I mean, they take the first two against the Brewers, and now all of a sudden they look to sweep a first-place team. Think about that for a second. For all you wait till they beat somebody crowd, for all you people that point out the record against 500 teams.
Are the Braves fans still doing that, by the way?
Yes, they are.
Are Braves fans still doing that?
They absolutely
Especially
are.
after they've been, sort of pooped their pants playing bad teams.
Yeah, like the Nats. They lost the A's. They gave up like 1 million runs to the A's the other day.
They lost 3 out of 4 to the Nats at home. I just wondered if they're still doing that, if that's the new math in Atlanta.
I think that's the new math in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Ever since you left, they changed the curriculum.
So Phillies, the curriculum wasn't that great when I was there. Phillies. So the Phillies got to beat good teams.
Yes.
But don't say anything when the Braves can't beat bad teams.
Bad teams, right?
Okay,
exactly.
Gotcha. I just got to figure out what the rules are.
Well,
They're
here's
all
the deal.
new rules.
The Phillies did beat good teams. They've already won this series against Milwaukee. I know the Cardinals are 3 under 500. The Cardinals were on fire before the Phillies faced them. The Cardinals had won a lot of baseball games. The Phillies faced them in a 15-game stretch.
And the
Phillies are playing good baseball.
And the Phillies won the season series against St. Louis, won the series in St. Louis, and won the series here.
Yeah, so that's done already.
So, I don't think the Cardinals are a good team.
So they're 43-19. 43-19, identical record with the Yankees. Best records in Major League Baseball. Think about it. We get to talk about our team having the best record in baseball, man.
And as I told you before this morning, because it's just Connor said yesterday, it's like, well, they got like 100 games left. Well, today they actually have 100 games left.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
There's 100 games left. Play 500 ball, they win 93.
Yeah, you've been doing this for a couple weeks now, and I love it. And
they win 500
win
balls.
Keeps going up and up and up.
Yes. Now, too, it would also make there would only be 5 teams. Phillies play 500 ball the rest of the way. Only 5 teams in their over 100 and some year history have been better than 93 wins.
Only 5.
5.
God.
93 Phillies, 197. 2010 Phillies, 197. The 76 Phillies won 101. 77 Phillies won 101. And the 2011 Phillies won 102. That's the mark they're chasing if you care about such things.
I know 93 wins isn't like an easy feat. Well, when you've been around since 1883 and you've only done it 5 times,
yes.
If you ever do the deep dive of the Phillies franchise, they suck.
Well, the
don't
Quakers.
Do that.
Well, in 1883, they were still the Quakers, I guess they were called, but whatever it is. But their franchise is named the Phillies only 5 times. If we play 500 the rest of the way, it would be the 6th best season they've ever had. And honestly, it's pretty incredible.
It's incredible. But if you go to the Pro Baseball Reference, the top 10 page, it's sad.
What were the losingest franchise in the history of pro sports?
Aaron Nola's had a tremendous career, right? And will continue to hopefully have a tremendous career. He should not be as high up as he is in a lot of the statistical categories for pitchers.
No.
He should not be. He's still too young, but that's how bad it's been for, not 50 years. Since 1883. It's amazing.
That 93 Phillies team, though, about the 197, Ricky Bo and that whole crew back then.
Yeah.
They were 45-17 at this mark. They were 2 games better.
They were 2 games better, man. That's how.
And you know what? They finished 48-52, their last 100. So they were below 500.
Wow, that's
after a 45-17 start. They didn't need to be, though.
No, they
were running. They were running away.
And
with
I don't
it
see
at
that
point.
happening with this team. This team's too good for them to go below 500 for the rest of the way. Unbelievable start for the Phillies. Been a lot of fun watching this team, so we don't want to lose them. If you want to talk some Phils, feel free at 610-632-0975. Now we're all Vic Fangio'd up. You are very excited for Vic Fangio,
and much more Kellen Moore, though.
Yes, of course.
I'm much more of a. I don't want to get the Kellen Moore tattoo, but I may have to think about it. Because it really is. I truly believe if this team doesn't succeed with all these weapons and otherwise, this will be the best offensive talent Kellen Moore's ever worked with.
Oh, absolutely.
Period.
Absolutely.
Top to bottom, if you talk about 11 guys and the depth chart.
Yeah, he had CeeDee Lamb, but he has A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, right? He's got 2 legit wide receivers. It's unbelievable.
And he makes tight ends top 5, top 6 tight ends in the game.
And you got a good
as far as that.
And you got a good one, Dallas Goedert.
Who I think's been underutilized in this team.
Completely agree with you.
A lot.
So on the other side of the ball, we're also excited for Vic Fangio. I'm more excited from the Ray Dunn perspective, where he says if it doesn't work out, we'll finally find out if this defensive scheme doesn't work anymore. I love Connor's rant last week when I asked something that you would love to bring back, and you just brought up blitzing. It was a great rant because I think every Philadelphia fan agrees that blitzing is fun and blitzing is more enjoyable to watch than playing 10 yards off the line of scrimmage, sticks defense, all that kind of nonsense. But this is the Vic Fangio tree, so we'll find out if it actually works. But here's Andrew DiCecco yesterday, who will be joining us Thursday at 8:10 like he normally does. But he did the special show last night with Kevin Cooney. Or was this best show ever yesterday, DiCecco?
Best show ever.
Best show ever.
The special show tonight with Kevin Cooney on The Fanatic. But yesterday with the best show ever, giving a report from minicamp, talking about how Vic Fangio is going to be able to get more out of the younger players than we've seen in recent years.
No-nonsense guy that commands the room and garners the respect of everybody, just given how long he's been in the NFL. I'm really impressed with what I've seen. Obviously, it's been with only 3 practices open to the media right now, but just seeing him at the podium, and you know what's expected, and I think his no-nonsense approach and his just knowing how tough he is on his players, that's hopefully going to get the best out of those guys. And right now, I'm looking at Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis as 2 guys that they're really the foundational building blocks of that defense, and he's going to demand a lot of those guys. And I think that's going to be something to keep an eye on as we move towards training camp.
And we've heard a lot from those players specifically loving Vic Fangio, the no BS approach. And as you have pointed out, I mean, that's what they're used to.
Yeah, because at least the guys who came out of Georgia.
Right.
I can promise you this. There's nothing that Vic Fangio can do that's going to faze them, because Kirby Smart and his coaching staff are MFers.
Right.
In your face, push you. Every day's a challenge. There is no light coaching at Georgia. There is no coaches being your friends at Georgia.
So you don't expect the...
No, I don't think there's going to be the Miami Dolphins approach.
That was so
Well,
ridiculous.
I think the Miami Dolphins approach, though, does seep down from their head coach, who honestly...
Yes, I agree.
Just to me looks like... I don't know.
Well, how much is
looks like he should be getting a swirly in the toilet.
How much is he different than Nick Sirianni with his action?
I think... no, but to me, he just... I don't know. There are biases I got against people that would I hire this guy to be my football coach.
I got you.
I wouldn't.
Totally fair. I got you. You'd rather hire the prototype of Dan Campbell before Mike McDaniel.
The thing is, Campbell's the other end of the spectrum. Campbell's like the high end of the spectrum. I just need to go a little further.
All right, I got you. That's fair enough. All right, so we'll reset the entire show. Coming up next, we'll get to more of your texts and your calls. You can chime in at 610-632-0975. Also, we played Nick Sirianni talking about Kellen Moore. Well, Nick Sirianni was asked why this year they were having mini camp. He talked about that yesterday. We'll play that for you and a whole lot more. It's Kincade Salciunas right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Up.
Salciunas. Good Wednesday morning. Coming up in an hour, Adam Schefter will be joining us. He joins us every single Wednesday at 8 o'clock. So looking forward to our conversation with Shefty. But want to reset the show to start the 7 o'clock hour. What we've gotten into today is this Eagles roster and whether or not we are overrating it and whether or not we are ignoring the defense too much. And this stems from our conversation with Jeff McClain yesterday. So let's play that clip one more time, Connor. Here's Jeff McClain on with us yesterday talking about his questions that he has about the Eagles defense.
I feel like the roster was stronger. I guess young guys in training camp, there's a lot of stuff to be played out, but I feel like the roster was stronger going into last season, the way I felt about it. There's more question marks on the defensive side. Again, I mean, they lost basically their two best players, Fletcher Cox and Haason Reddick, right? I mean, if you're looking at it kind of objectively.
Yeah, that is objective.
And you know, who did you replace those guys with? I think Bryce Huff certainly has the potential. You brought back Josh Sweat, but you're still kind of asking a lot of these young guys, Nolan Smith and Jordan Davis. Those guys didn't really perform. I think Nolan didn't play a lot. Jordan kind of petered out down the stretch.
See, it's interesting because don't we all have the same feeling that we think the defense will be better this year?
I know they will be.
All right, you know that they will.
They're not going to be. There is zero. How about zero? Not 0.01% chance. There's 0% chance that this team is worse than the 30th defense.
All right,
in the NFL.
give me multiple reasons why, because I know one reason will be the defensive coordinator. But
well, I'm going to say the defensive coordinator, you got an adult in the room.
Right.
Second of all, you've got more experience for the young guys that you're counting on to take a step up.
True.
And I do believe in their talent. That's going to help you out, too. I truly believe last year they looked old.
They did.
They looked old. And to me, I love a youth movement. And if I haven't seen it with my own eyes, what the Chiefs did the last 2 years with a young secondary, creating a dynamic secondary in a matter of 3 seasons, actually, 3 drafts.
Right.
Going really young back there. I'm totally bought in on the secondary plan. And I do believe there will be bumps on the road. I believe there are going to be Mondays where we come in here and say, okay, damn, that was a little rough.
Right.
That was a little rough. But I'd rather lose with guys on the upswing than lose with guys in the downside.
Oh, absolutely.
Or struggle with it.
I remember an interaction I had with my father. I forget after which game, but it was early in the gauntlet. So it wasn't like it wasn't like they lost the final week of the season to the Giants. It might have been after the Cowboys game because that was around the holidays, right?
It was.
Cardinals game.
The Cardinals game was New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve, and Giants was Christmas Day.
Giants game was Christmas night.
So it was before the Giants game. I know that for a fact. And I remember my dad saying to me, man, this team looked like it got old and old fast. And I remember him saying that, and I was like, yeah, you're kind of right.
I remember arguing that with somebody that I didn't agree with them, and they were right.
They
were right.
And it looked like it just happened. Like
it did.
It looked like weeks happen. 1 through 11, and then 12 through 18 was a different season. Like a whole other year was added on to everybody's age.
They had such resilience, and it's weird is the way they had such resilience in the first half to just gut out games to figure it out.
Even the Bills game, like they were getting torched, but remember they made plays at the end. Bradberry had the interception. Brandon Graham had
at
a
halftime.
sack.
It did not look good.
Right.
But I look at that, and I rarely think of an old team being one that has that bounce back ability.
Right.
Even though they're veterans and everything, I think that I don't know. I think last year was just an anomaly. I'm convinced it will be better on so many fronts.
And I think there's going to be more playmaking with this defense.
Well, they're going to turn the ball over. They better,
right.
They better, by the way, turn the ball over.
They had last year was horrible.
By the way, Blankenship, who a lot of people aren't that thrilled with.
I'm not thrilled with Reed Blankenship.
He is a guy that does have a nose for the ball.
Every once in a while, yeah.
Well, I mean, and
then he gets attacked, and,
right?
And
I get you.
I get you.
He is
like he did last year.
Not saying he doesn't have his weaknesses, but he does have a nose for the ball.
I don't see him as sneaky athletic. You know what I mean? I see Cooper DeJean.
We're using all the code words. All the code words of the draft.
I'm just not the biggest Reed Blankenship fan, and I've been like that ever since he started playing. Even when he was the third safety, when Chauncey Gardner-Johnson got hurt, he did a great job filling in for him for 4 weeks. 4 weeks. He is not a full season starting safety, in my opinion.
No,
I think he's a guy that could be a part of a rotation.
No, I mean,
I do. I think he's an NFL player. I just don't want, like, when I hear Reed Blankenship safety number 1, I go, all right.
No, how
good is this defense actually going to be?
There's a little cringe factor to that.
Yeah, there is. So you have said guarantee that they'll be better than last year.
Oh, no, I'm not even saying it. I'm saying it with my chest.
Right.
They're going to be significantly better than last year.
But what is that? So they were 30th out of 32. So give me a range.
Significant is I will be floored if they are not a top half defense.
Top half? So they're going from 30 to at least 15?
At 16.
Or 16?
Yes. I'll put the number right now. If I asked you to bet right now, and I put the number at 15.5. No, I'll make it 16.5 because that's sort of the number. Would you bet over or under?
My first thought is over.
Yeah, Connor, where you go over?
And I don't think that's going to kill their chances of winning.
No.
I just don't see them making that much of a jump.
I do. By the way, the Chiefs won a Super Bowl with a defense better than 16th, worse than 16th
wait,
in 2022.
When you said over, are you saying like lower?
No, higher number.
If he says 16.5, I think they're 17 to 30.
Oh, no, I'm the other way. I think they're better than
so
that.
I think you're better. You're going under 16.5.
You're going top half.
He's going over.
Better, yes.
Yeah,
okay.
They're better. I absolutely would bet that. And if the Bet Park Sportsbook app would like to post that,
that'd be a good
I will bet it today that they will be a top half minimum. That's the floor of – and by the way, that's my floor of expectation for a guy like Vic Fangio.
For Vic Fangio, right.
For him to be able to deliver that to us, and I think he will.
Is he the biggest reason why you feel better about the defense this year?
There's not even a question.
Okay.
Not even a question. But the one thing is that Vic Fangio also – and you heard it with Brian Dawkins the other day. And in a side conversation with Brian the other day on the course, talking to, he said, this man makes a lot of difference. And I even think Brian Dawkins doesn't believe that they're not going to be a defense that leads the NFL or, all of a sudden becomes, just incredible.
The 2000 Ravens.
Correct.
85 Bears.
I don't believe that.
Yeah.
But just the respect that a guy like Dawkins, and he said it when he was on with Bob Cooney too, that he has for Vic Fangio and what just the professionalism he's going to bring to the job, that was severely lacking last year.
He pointed to Dawkins to too many cooks in the kitchen. That may have been one of the reasons why they had so many issues last year. So it is promising that you bring in a legitimate defensive coordinator, a legitimate offensive coordinator, and I think that puts everybody at ease. So feel free to climb in 610-632-0975. Connor, what do we have on the text line today? Our questions to start the show. Are we overrating the Eagles roster? Are we ignoring the defense too much? That's kind of one question, but it's a part one, part two. And the other one, are you willing to go into this season with a clean slate for Nick Sirianni? I got smudges all over mine.
I think most people will agree with the two of you.
I believe so as well.
I think I would get ratioed big time on this one.
Connor, what do we have on the text line?
So Blaine Jackson says, with the young D-line, young corners, and linebackers, they're all question marks because we don't know if they can play at a high level the way they played in college. And when we talk about corners and linebackers just drafted, if they can stay healthy and play in that level all season. So there are a bunch of question marks with this defense.
All right. So, yeah, and that's to Jeff McClain's point.
Right. I think that's where Jeff was talking about.
But I do like these questions more than last year's questions. It's young play. Like I'm excited to see if these young players pan out.
I love upside.
Yes.
I love upside, and I absolutely believe that there's tons of talent on here that I believe will deliver on that. What level they deliver to is another thing.
Right.
Like I'm telling you this. I love Nakobe Dean. I love the person that he is. But I am a huge skeptic as to what as to what he's going to deliver. And I couldn't want it more for him.
Of course.
But I'm not going to just be like, I believe it's happening.
Yeah.
There's a lot that...
It's not just a health thing. Even when he was on the field last year, he did not look ready to play.
And the one thing is that I'm gonna in my mind put that towards it's just reps. It's just reps. It's getting comfortable. It's getting the reps in. It's getting comfortable being an NFL player. And he didn't get to do that.
I did see yesterday he was running with the twos.
He was.
I saw a lot of the reporters that are at minicamp yesterday saying that Nakobe Dean was running with the two.
And that could be the guy that, remember last year, the whole story was green dot, green dot, green dot.
Yeah.
He's going to be the guy.
I think there were too many guys. One of my beefs with last year were guys that were named starters right away.
I don't like that at all.
Like Reed Blankenship, there is no situation where you can tell me that Reed Blankenship going into last season for any team should have been on day one of camp, he's our safety. There's no budging. The only competition is the second safety spot.
Even if you know behind closed doors as a coaching staff, you know what, guys? I think we're going to have to run him as a starter or as our top guy.
But you still can't just
make him earn it.
It was public. Like, it was public that it was Reed Blankenship and everybody else.
Well, Nakobe Dean, the green dot. It was all about it. And I tell you, and I said it last year, and nobody's more like I'm so rooting for him, and I want it to happen. But I was even saying, like that's too much, almost too much pressure to put on them.
Yeah, and I think that was not a smart thing to do. Competition is good. Obviously, nobody was competing for center last year, right? It was
right, exactly.
It was that or right tackle.
Well, there should never be a competition when a guy is entrenched as a Pro Bowler or whatever.
But when you have young players or inexperienced players,
don't annoy.
Exactly. And that was a beef of mine that I had during camp last season. Now, speaking of camp, we'll get to the phones in a second because I see something that I really need to get to. But Nick Sirianni, we've been making the big deal that this is his first mini camp as a head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. He did not have it his first 3 seasons. We're trying to figure out why is this year the year to do it? Was it in response to what happened last season? Is it because you have new coordinators? Well, Nick Sirianni spoke about that yesterday. Take a listen.
There's many things. We wanted to get some extra practices in. We wanted to have, to set the stage of as far as, this day is a little bit different than an OTA day. It kind of mirrors a day of practice. But also you can get some meetings done that you don't have to do in training camp now. That's one reason. You can get the physicals done. You can get the meetings that you would do in training camp that kind of eat up a night meeting. So you can get some of those done too. But at the end of the day, it's to get out there and work, have the whole team in here and working together and going hard at it.
It's weird. It is weird what he said, though. One thing of being a lot of I used to have to go to training camp and broadcast on training camps for like a week. Mm-hmm. And you would talk to players, and they would be living in dorms at the time.
Right.
And you would talk to players about it, and they would say, you know what, we had a freaking night meeting tonight. We got a night meeting tonight, and it's about the league warning us about not gambling. The league giving us the drug testing rules.
Right.
Like they'd have these night meetings. A lot of that stuff, they're mandatory and they got to check a box. If Nick Sirianni can get some of that crap out of the way, then players can say, after you get done with a hard day of practice, it's 4 p.m. or whatever, and they're done and they have their night.
Right.
And I think that that's a big deal to a lot of players. There are some benefits to this.
Yeah, well, I think it's everything is beneficial.
Like, I think it's very beneficial.
My thing is, like, why wouldn't he have had it over the last couple of years? Again, playoffs 3 straight years, Super Bowl 2 years ago. His methods have clearly been successful. My question is, like, why wouldn't you do it? Just to give your players extra time in the offseason when they already don't practice all that much?
Yes. That's the answer. Nerd Boy went back and read yesterday from 2021.
Okay.
When he was hired. And one of the things that he did was, bring it. They made a big deal of it, going back and reading. I don't remember it as much. The veterans. I quizzed all my veterans and took them and got their opinions on how things are done and how they like to work and everything. And I think Nick Sirianni pandered to his veterans. I think he pandered to the veterans in the locker room. Are like, yeah, we'll take more time off.
That's so strange.
But that's what veterans do in the NFL. The NFL Players Association, every single time, leads with less practices, less contact, more time off,
but
more vacation time.
So
that's what they always when they lead into collective bargaining. That's what they ask for first.
We literally just kind of ripped Haason Reddick yesterday for not going OTAs to his new team, right?
Yes.
What new head coach doesn't want to have a mini camp?
I don't understand it either.
Like, that's weird. Like, I don't remember if I made a big deal about that. And look, clearly, playoffs, Super Bowl the next year.
I did.
It's worked out. I don't remember.
And it looked dumb. It looked dumb.
Because
in retrospect, he makes the playoffs his first year. He makes the Super Bowl his second year. So Club Med worked until it didn't. It's weird. It didn't, and it fell apart.
But look, he has it this year, and all those things that he said, he probably could have done that the last 3 seasons. I don't want to make a federal case out of it because it has worked the last 3 years. But culture setting, meetings, getting to know your offensive and defensive coordinator, This isn't the first time he has a new OC in DC. This is the third time he has a new OC in DC. Year one together with Gannon and Steichen. Year one with Desai and Brian Johnson.
Right.
Now year one with Fangio and Kellen Moore.
I got to tell you, though, I'm a little bugged by both of you, though.
Why?
What'd we do?
You know, and I know you guys to be fair-minded. It does still, every time we talk about it, it does bug me a little bit that you guys are not going to give him a clean slate.
Absolutely not.
Why?
He hasn't earned it.
I don't know. I just look at it as there's nothing this guy is going to do to be able to, that he's going to get any credit from you.
Yeah, that's why we had that topic last week.
Right, and I know.
Whether it's fair or unfair.
And it does, and I consider it unfair. Like, it just is surprising because I consider the two of you, and I'll take people behind the curtain, I consider you two to be two of the most fair-minded individuals about life that I know. But as sports fans, you sort of have a different approach to it. But about like things in life, I think you two are extremely fair-minded people.
John, I went through a whole season when they were 10-1, and then a collapse happened. But I was still being critical when they were 10-1 of the offense because I hated the offense from week one. And I had to hear Nick Sirianni 3 or 4 different times last season pee on people asking about motion.
I know.
Oh, we know motion, just a motion.
I got it.
What do you know? What, you Mr. Reporter, Mr. Radio Guy, fan, beat writer? And then Kellen Moore's in here for 6 minutes, and Devontae Smith's talking about how great it is. Nick Sirianni's talking about how everything is advertised. And I was sitting here for 18 weeks last year, including a playoff game, going, hey, how about you add some pre-snap motion? Hey, how about you prepare your quarterback against a team that will be bringing pressure? It wasn't just one game where they faced an aggressive defense coordinator. It was Martindale twice. It was Brian Flores. It was Todd Bowles twice. They had so many opportunities to prepare for an aggressive defense. Bill Belichick earlier in the year. And they didn't.
No, they didn't. I get you.
And so how can I watch this guy who was supposed to be thought of as this mastermind offensively not have a clue for a lot of issues last season?
Yeah, he did this to himself, and last season wasn't the start of it. He did it his first year where he gave up play calling or however that worked out.
7 games in.
He was clearly overmatched, and then he refused to take the reins from someone possibly more overmatched last year in Brian Johnson. So I'm not saying, Nick Sirianni, terrible head coach, no upside, nothing else. But I can't give him a clean slate.
I got you.
No,
I got you.
Smudges.
We're taking it.
Even if you try wiping it, there's permanent marker on my whiteboard. Remember the kids that would do that in school?
That's so annoying when there's permanent.
Why'd you do that?
Jerks.
All right, let's go to the phones. We've talked about the Phillies a little bit today. Great win last night. And Nick Castellanos was the big man on campus yesterday at the double. And yet we still have a complaint. Let's go to Bob in Lancaster. What's up, Bob?
John, Tunis, how are you doing?
How you doing, Bobby?
Hey, I just want to get your thoughts because I don't want to sound like the old clown that complains about everything. But
can I guess what you are going to say?
Please.
You saw Nick Castellanos hit one down the line, and then leg it a little bit harder to get to second to get a double in the stat sheet.
100%.
I knew it.
I mean, man, it just, you see him, he takes a couple steps, and he's like, I got a chance for a double, and he's like, I got to pad my stats. And then he got Mr. Cool throwing his hands up after he crosses the finish line at second base.
I got to tell you, they brought it up on the broadcast.
Did they really?
Yeah, he said, why, he did not need to stretch that into a double. But he did it.
That's my problem.
He did it on purpose.
It's funny, Bob. I thought when I saw it, I was like, that's interesting. But I did not think anybody, for the life of me, would actually bring it up today. I wasn't going to bring it up today.
I think it was John Kruk that said it at one point.
So I guess it was more noticeable than I thought.
He got another double.
Hey, Bobby had a big day yesterday.
No, I know. Hey, listen, if it was anybody else, I would laugh it off. But it's the fact that the guy, he's the only guy that I think hasn't gotten a day off this year because he's got to hit himself out of a slump.
Which isn't.
And he's starting to.
Yeah, no, it's all right. But he's up to 210, but he's sitting there legging out a double. Come on, man.
Don't disrespect him. He's up to 214, Bob.
I was excited that he got 2 walks last night.
Yeah, man.
They actually broke into CNN programming to announce it.
Hey, listen, I love the show, fellas.
Bob, thanks for the call, Bob. We appreciate it. Dude, I swear to you know who, I watched him turn on the Jets to get to second. And
I was wondering why.
And I'm like, well, no, I knew exactly why.
Why?
It's to get a double in the second.
But I mean, there's the only reason you do it is for that.
Right.
And there was no reason to do it.
I didn't care.
No.
I didn't care.
There's zero effect on anything.
I can't believe we actually had a caller that was going to bring it up.
But you noticed it.
I noticed it.
Yeah, you noticed it, that there was really no reason to do that.
I would have noticed it if it was Garrett Stubbs. I would have noticed it if it was Alec Boehm. Bob brings up Castellanos because it's Castellanos, and that he seems to be too cool for school sometimes.
the whole idea of, he has to play every day because
it's Cal Ripken, bro.
Like, why arguably your worst starting player has to play every day.
I have a great
little
explanation.
Sense to me.
It makes plenty of sense.
All right, well, we'll get your explanation coming up. I said 240 batting average. I expect him to get to. He's at 214. He's rising, Johnny. He's rising. Hey, look, good win last night, and good for you, Nick Castellanos. I'm glad you got that double in your stat sheet.
Had no stats.
Coming up next, we continue the Eagles conversation. What are they going to do with James Bradberry? We may have gotten an answer. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Phillies win another series. I'm Connor Thomas. This update is brought to you by the Bet Parks app. All your favorite.
Salciunas here, 97.5 The Fanatic. Adam Schefter will be joining us coming up at 8 o'clock, as he does every single Wednesday morning. So 30 minutes from now, a Shefty Wednesday. So can't wait to talk to Adam Schefter. We've been talking a lot about the Eagles today as mandatory minicamp began yesterday. The question that we start off with is whether or not we're overrating this roster and whether or not we're ignoring the defense, specifically the defense. When I talk about roster, I talk specifically about the defense.
Yeah, you're talking D.
Right. And Jeff McClain yesterday. Oh, man.
Get a laugh out of you.
Oh, man. I try to be as professional as possible.
Yeah, you
and
are.
you drop that on me.
Yeah, really
Jeff McClain yesterday talked about how he has more questions about this year's defense than last year's defense. And last year's defense was 30th out of 32.
Yes.
So if he's questioning this year's defense more than last year's defense, that was horrible. That brings some concern to me.
It does.
It does.
And again, one of the first people I responded to this morning on social media. Well, that's what McClain does. He likes to stir the pot. No, he's skeptical.
McClain's a journalist. That's the other thing. Like, look, I admit it. Like, sometimes even though I say I take the green goggles off, I definitely overvalue my players more than other teams all the time.
I think we all do.
All the time.
I think there's a bias to it that we all do. Jeff McClain's not a hater. He's not a.
But he's not a fan.
And in fact, exactly. That's not his job. His job is not to shake the pom poms for you. And by the way, that's not our job either. And last year, when the Eagles were 8-1, 9-1, 10-1, I was getting the people going, "Oh my gosh, can't believe you're finding problems with a 9-1 team, 10-1 team." Again, vindicated. It happened.
Right.
What mattered. It just didn't matter when they were 10-1 to some people. It mattered to me.
And then it ended up playing out the way that it did.
It played out.
And so it's fair to point out
Right.
things, even though things may be good. But when Jeff McClain says there's more questions, I start getting a little concerned.
It gives you the
because
creeps.
he's around the team more. He's not looking at it as a fan.
Right.
And so I go, all right, maybe he has a point, and that's something that I may not have thought of that much. So are we overrating the Eagles roster? Do we not question the defense enough? You can climb in on the phone line or text line 610-632-0975. What do we have on the text line about our beloved Eagles there, Connor?
Yeah, we have a text here. No name on this one, but they say, I think the Birds will be as good, if not better, than what we think. Last year happened due to a couple of things. Obviously, coaching was a huge part of the collapse, but also Hurts was more of an issue. He's starting to talk about the whole team. But with
more than a couple of issues, it seemed.
By the way, how does he make it that it's Hurts? How does he know that?
Right.
Like, I mean,
I don't think Hurts was good last year.
No, I think Hurts definitely took a step back, but the issues that was haunting the team, I don't know if that Jalen Hurts didn't exceed with the offensive coaching he was getting last year.
Well, we've also talked about questions with his leadership. It's not all on the field.
And we don't know that, but we don't know that.
Right, so people are making conjecture.
Yeah, exactly. It's just conjecture. Well, that's what I say. That's conjecture.
That's the world we live in, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, no, I try to when I have an opinion, I try to have it not be on.
I know you try.
But fans don't get the luxury that we do of talking to people.
And I got you. You can even sit down and watch 5 minutes of an Eagles game and say it doesn't look like he has it today.
No, I absolutely know.
And your first thought is man, it must be the bad play calling, or it must be the bad scheme, or it must be the players around him. Your first thought was, hey, how come he didn't make that throw? How come he missed that open receiver downfield, which he did a lot last year?
There was 3 times last year where the first series, you had that Hurts immediately just escapes the pocket way too early, and then just rolls around and runs around and ends up either just throwing the ball out of bounds or otherwise. On the very first series, first 3 plays, it's like, oh my gosh, they just look unprepared.
There were so many times where the Eagles just went scoreless in the first quarter.
Yep.
Last year. I mean, there was just so many times because the game plan going into it. And I know Brian Johnson, the first 15 plays, actually did well yardage-wise, but they couldn't get 6.
No.
And that's ultimately what the end game is. You need to score touchdowns in order to win, especially in this NFL now where offenses can go down the field in the blink of an eye.
It was atrocious last year, the problems that they had.
Oh, it was horrible. So one of our big questions going into camp, there's really only a couple of battles that we'll be keeping an eye on, and we're going to talk about the right guard position later on in the show because I know Andrew DeCecco talked about that yesterday. Lane Johnson talked about that yesterday. But one of the only other battles, I guess, is safety still because I think the
so
jury.
This year we're going to have a battle for
right,
safety?
Thank God.
It is interesting.
I do think the jury's still out in Reed Blankenship, and I have a reason why I believe that to be true. You don't know when Sidney Brown's going to be coming back. You don't know what Cooper DeJean's going to be playing. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was brought back, but remember when he first brought back, it was safety/nickel corner, right? I think Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's going to be one of your two safeties. Like I feel very comfortable saying he's one of your two safeties.
I'm confident that you're going to be right.
I think you're going to have Darius Slay on one side of cornerback. You mentioned Keely Ringo was getting first-team reps yesterday.
Yes, exactly.
And then Quinyon Mitchell was getting second-team reps. Notice I have not said James Bradberry yet. And then in the slot, it's DeJean and Avonte Maddox. So I feel comfortable saying Chauncey Gardner-Johnson will be one of your two safeties. The reason why I feel comfortable saying the jury is still out for Reed Blankenship is that James Bradberry was actually getting reps at safety yesterday.
He was.
Here's Nick Sirianni talking about the former All-Pro corner who I think a lot of people already wrote off and that he would be released at some point. Here's Sirianni talking about what they might be trying to do with James Bradberry.
Versatility. He was able to do a couple different things last year, had played his majority of his career at corner, and then was able to do some things in the dime and some things at the nickel, some things at the corner, and now, he's working some of the safety stuff, which you'll see today. So I'm excited about that and his opportunity to be able to, you've seen a lot of good corners in this league. I guess the first guy that comes to my mind, Charles Woodson, he went from elite corner to being elite nickel to being elite safety, and so I'm excited about that for James, that he's able to do more.
Now, I'm not about to compare James Bradberry to Charles Woodson.
But he just did, in a way.
Well, he's talking up his guy. That's Nick.
Wow, that was just, that was aggressive.
Nick will compare a fourth-string running back to Derrick Henry.
I know, right? But that was really aggressive to me.
It was very aggressive, but I find it interesting that I wonder if part of it's the contract. Like, hey, we need to find a way to get this guy on the field because of this contract. And if he can't play anywhere, fine, we'll do the post-June 1st thing. We'll take the dead cap hit, which really isn't that high now that it's post-June 1st. But let's see if we can get this guy on the field some way. I like that during minicamp they're trying that.
Okay, that's fine.
This should, honestly, I don't know why we all wrote off James Bradberry as not being on the team. You haven't.
I haven't. Yeah, I thought he'd be here.
Right.
Because I didn't see... And it was, and it wasn't my thinking. It was listening to people who cover this team.
Right.
The financial benefits. There's not.
Right. There's
no financial benefit in trading him.
But now, I don't think any of us have thought that he could play safety, or that I know that he played nickel corner last year against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Week 3. But is his future at safety? I guess it might be if that's what they're thinking. That's what they're trotting him out for.
Yeah, it might be.
Does that concern you? Like, do you go, damn, James Bradberry's safety?
Thing is, I don't think he has a future. Like, I don't think he has a future.
No, but a year.
I think
he's got a year left. What?
Right.
You can cut him after this season.
I think he's got a year. It's one of those things.
So the question is James Bradberry, Reed Blankenship until Sidney Brown comes back. I mean, that's what it really comes down to.
I don't think it's a bad thing either.
It's worth a shot. It's minicamp and then training camp, and then you give him some reps in preseason if you actually play your starters or your vets.
I think that's fair.
I think something to pay attention to.
Yeah, I don't think I'd really have a problem with that either.
And I think it's also good faith to a veteran. Like, rather than burying him behind rookies at a position he was an all-pro at, it's, okay, you can't really do that anymore, but we're going to try at this new position. We're going to give you a look. It makes him feel like he's got a better
other than Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, there should be nobody that is listed as, safety 2.
Right.
Like, there should not be one.
There
shouldn't have been a safety 1 last year, and they did. So much like last year, there should not be positions already set in stone before training camp, before preseason week number 1 starts.
Do you think, though, even when we say that shouldn't happen, that the coaches behind closed doors sometimes just BS us and don't. They know the answer's already there. The answer's already there, but they're just not going to tell us.
I'm sure that happens a million times.
Yeah, that could be.
Sirianni, I did not listen to the press conference live. I will be honest with you. I got a text from one Ray Dunn.
Okay. What was Ray's perception? I think Ray's fair-minded.
No, he texted me something that I hated.
What's that?
That I ripped every time I heard it. He said it's only June and I already got a competitive advantage. He did not answer a question yesterday because of competitive advantage in minicamp in June.
Not good.
Hey, man, play your cards close to the vest.
Well, but that's to John's question. Yeah, there's going to be things that are going to be decided behind closed doors because he won't even say certain things publicly during training camp.
Yeah,
he did mention the core values yesterday.
The whole competitive advantage thing is just such garbage.
I get leading up to a game.
It's Cowboys week. It's Giants week. It's Cowboys week.
Right.
Totally get you, Nick. Totally get it.
But it's June. Yes, sir. It's June 4th.
It's absurd.
I don't need competitive advantage in minicamp. Just answer the freaking question.
I mean, it's absurd that you'd be talking about.
Hey, the way he ran an offense last year, he could use all the competitive advantage he can get.
Yeah, I'm sure. All right, let's go back to the phones. Go to Nick in Pottstown. Nick, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, good morning, guys. I just want to say I'm one of these guys kind of got on the bandwagon that, I'm a baseball fan, but it's like much watch TV right now.
I love that, by the way.
And Bohm's performance last night, he had a stretch where just play after play after play and fantastic plays that I don't know.
And there was wasn't there 2 in 1 inning?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, over a stretch of innings there that they were just banging them at him, and he was just pulling them in, throwing them out. It was impressive.
Yeah, and then he hits the home run in the 8th inning. I mean, the beauty of sports talk is sometimes you're focused on one specific moment, like Nick Castellanos hitting the game-winning double yesterday, that you sometimes forget to point out the other things. And Alec Bohm hit a home run in the 8th inning. There is no Nick Castellanos in the 10th inning if Alec Bohm doesn't go yard in the 8th.
Yeah, exactly. So I was impressed that I don't know if I've ever watched a stretch where just play after play after play that they were just banging them right at him and he was just throwing them out.
I'm excited for him to. I will say before this season I was bombed up. I had
you have been.
I felt good.
You had a boner.
But he's exceeded those expectations right now.
Yeah, pretty good defensively right now.
Last night he had a really good night.
And another home run for Alec Bohm yesterday.
I love that.
Are we at 6? What's his total?
He's only had 1 last month.
He's at 6. He's at 6 home runs this year. Maybe we'll get to double digits.
Could be.
And he's the batting average is dipped below 300. Shame.
Yeah, I'm not the production.
I'm not worried about him. No, I know. I'm not worried about him. Big home run yesterday.
And Rojas with another.
Yeah, and by the way, we still haven't mentioned Stott to play in the 10th inning. Play the play. I mean, it's the blessing and the curse of sports talk radio, ladies and gentlemen. All right, coming up next, we've talked about him a lot today. If he gets hot, the league's in trouble. And that's Nick Castellanos. We dive into that next. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Bob Cooney.
You have a plethora of corners and slot backs. You have 2 aging veterans.
It's coming up at 8 o'clock. Always love our conversations with Schefty. Talking a lot of Eagles today, but also mixing in the Phillies, who had a nice win over the. They already win their series against Milwaukee, taking the first two games. They look to sweep Milwaukee today. They win in extras last night thanks to the game-winning double by Nick Castellanos. And it's so funny that we had that caller, Bob from Lancaster, earlier, who brought up something I noticed that
was what?
Castellanos rounding first and putting on the Jets to get to second.
And you know that was...
Yeah, it was to get the double in the stat sheet. And I don't care. I can't believe... Bob literally called in and was like, I mean, for a guy that acts like he's too cool for school, all of a sudden wants to add to the stat sheet, you know what? Go for it, brother. You game winner. I can't believe we had a Castellanos complaint. I can't believe it.
No, I don't think you should be complaining about Nick Castellanos this morning.
Yeah, the game-winning hit yesterday.
This morning, I don't want to hear... By the way, I'm not here for any Nick Castellanos complaining today.
No.
I do think it is absolutely fair, though, for someone to point it out and go...
I noticed it.
Yeah,
I said it before
they noticed it. They noticed it on the broadcast.
Okay.
It's fair to go, you're not ripping on Nick Castellanos going, yeah, that was some pretty good hustle to add that double to the spread.
It was just funny. So he rounds first, puts on the Jets, and then if you notice, he peeks at home plate
to make sure he gets there.
And he did.
He did.
It's nothing you're
it's so funny.
Nothing you're doing is speculative. Nothing you're doing is editorializing. He did it.
He did it.
He did it.
It's just
he cared about getting
funny.
that little extra.
Yeah, that's good.
Line in the stretch.
That's funny. Good for him, man. Climb up that OPS with that double yesterday. But speaking of Castellanos, I said this during going into the break. The league's in trouble if he heats up.
Yeah.
Because this lineup, we already know what they've been doing with Nick Castellanos at times hitting below 200. And now all of a sudden he's up to 214. He's got 2 games ago. The first game against Milwaukee, he did not get a hit. But it looked like he had like a 4-game hit streak before that moment and a lot of extra base hits.
Yes.
Like he's been hitting doubles. So yesterday, he's 1 for 3 with the double, the game-winning double with the RBI. You mentioned it, 2 walks, which is big for him.
That to me, I was more shocked by the walks last night. And by the way, he was behind in the count in both of his walks.
Yes, and he worked the count back. It was amazing.
That to me is almost as big as the hit. Because if he gets that...
He's a free swinger,
If he gets that... But if he can get that plate awareness... That would be amazing.
Yep.
That would be absolutely amazing.
The game before last night, he goes 0 for 3. But before that, 2 for 5 with a run scored. Game before that, 1 for 4 with a double. Game before that, 1 for 3 with a double. Game before that was the big one against the Giants, 3 for 5 with a double and a home run, 2 ribbies that day. Game before that, 1 for 4. So that's when he started hitting the baseball. But in the toward the end of May, he hit 3 home runs in the final week and a half. He's already has 2 doubles in the month of June. If he heats up, man, it's just another member in this Phillies offense that could do damage.
Well, isn't there really is nobody else because nobody is expecting Johan Rojas to all of a sudden be like a 270 or 280 hitter.
No.
So there's nobody else in the regular lineup that you say
his numbers can skyrocket.
His numbers could absolutely explode if he has a great month.
There's one other guy.
Bryson Stott.
No.
Okay.
Well, yes, actually 2 other guys.
Stott's numbers could be better.
Because Bryson Stott's down 241, and everybody thinks he could be a 300 hitter at some point in his career.
Well, I keep hearing the batting title thing.
Yeah, last year he had 280. It's down to 241 this season. I'm not panicking. I said Castellanos can get up to 240 this year. I think Stott can get up to 260, 270.
Oh, absolutely. There's no question.
There's another guy, though.
Who?
Well, it's June, bro.
Oh, Kyle Schwarber.
Kyle Schwarber could hit 800 this month with 30 bombs.
By the way, when you have a new baseball fan in your house, that's what I've been hearing. I thought Schwarber was going to start hitting in June.
Right?
And last night she's yelling at the television. It's June 4th.
You hit a home run.
Come on, Kyle. It's June. How about a single? It's June 4th, Kyle. And I will say that that more importantly, that Harper's about to have like a 7 or 8 game rampage coming up.
He just won Player of the Month too.
But he's about to have a 7 or 8 game rampage because it's been a little bit of a lull.
I got you.
And now it's going to at some point. Someone will pay the price for it.
Speaking of Schwarber, again, you learn a lot when you just watch games, and sometimes you miss things. Until they put it up on the screen the other day, have you noticed his splits this year?
It was weird.
So, against right-handed pitching this year, he's batting just 173, and he has 6 home runs. Against left-handed pitching, he has 5 home runs, so 1 home run shy against righties. But he's batting .315.
It doesn't.
Against left-handed pitching.
Again, that does not make sense.
It's so weird.
No, that does not make sense. There's something to that. That doesn't make sense.
I think the approach changed. He only has 1 double and 5 home runs against lefties. So that means, let's see, he has 52 hits against lefties. That means his other, 29 hits against left-handed pitching. That means his other 23 hits are singles. Like he's putting the ball in play. And I wonder if the shift, remember we all said last year that the average would probably be higher up because the shift, and that did not end up being the case.
It was not.
Maybe what our expectations were last year are coming to light this year. But it is crazy. The splits are, that's insane for a power-hitting left-handed hitter like he is.
Right, 100%. That's weird, but I don't know. If he does it over the course of a year, that'll be like, he changed something. Like, there's still 100 games left to go. I think that's more just a weird anomaly to this point in the season.
That 315 will get down into the 200s, and that 173 against righties will probably go up.
They're going to be closer than they are further apart.
Yeah, absolutely. But it is crazy so far. When I saw it on the NBC Sports Philly,
yeah, I think so.
Okay, that's weird.
It's amazing. Another beautiful day.
That was weird.
All right, what do we have? I know we have a text on Nick Castellanos on the text line. What do we got, Colin?
You're not going to like this one.
Why?
Why?
Because you guys are getting ripped again.
How?
What now?
How come you rag on Harper for no hustle, and then you rag on Nick because he did hustle?
Because there was no reason.
I made fun of it.
We made fun of it. We're not ragging on him.
And I said, good for you getting the double. I literally
You're the one who said good for you on
I'm glad he got it.
This text came in before that conversation. This text came in when we had first brought it up. So.
I'm happy for the good for you. Go get your double, man. We've all done it. We've all done it.
Hell yeah,
Like,
dude.
you're trying to add to the stat sheet. Your box score having a 2B instead of a 1B is so much cooler.
Dude, if I had $1 for every time in softball that I got thrown out at second when we're up 10
because
I want the double.
And you walk.
I don't always walk.
That's to balance out the walks.
But I think, look, I'm not ripping them. I think it's awesome. Good for him. It's just funny that I noticed it and many other people apparently noticed it. And I thought this was one of those things that I would have been the only person that noticed it. And now that we've heard from people, it's just funny. That's all. All right, coming up next, we start the 8 o'clock hour as we do every single Wednesday with Adam Schefter. And then following Schefty, normally at 8:05, but a little bit different on Wednesdays. It'll be today's headlines with Connor Thomas. That all coming your way next. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports.
on this Wednesday morning as I look at the top of our little sheet that Brendan Gunn gives us. Show number 58 of Kincade Salciunas. I was trying to do the math the other day. It will be before football season that show number 100 will hit.
Yes, we will. Probably right around training
August
camp
or something, right?
Right around training camp. I think the birds will be in camp.
58 shows. Can't believe it. It's been a lot of fun, and we want to thank all of you for joining us during this fun ride that we've been having. We'll be joined momentarily by Adam Schefter. He joins us every single Wednesday at 8 o'clock, so we're just working on getting Shefty. I'm going to ask him once more. I know we've kind of had this conversation with him in the past about the contracts and how Howie Roseman works quick, but another example yesterday with the extension of Justin Jefferson, now CeeDee Lamb not at minicamp for the Cowboys. There's going to be other wide receivers upset around the NFL because of the money that's been paid to Justin Jefferson. Now they're waiting for theirs. And Howie Roseman said, let me just act now and get this out of the way quicker.
It's smart.
And I know Devontae Smith was even asked about it yesterday, which I thought was an interesting question. I didn't hate the question. People were upset about it.
Why were people upset about it?
Because they thought it wasn't the right time or place or blah, blah.
When's the time? When is the time or place to ask about
There were people that were upset with the question being asked.
It's so dumb. And why that's perfect time to ask the question.
And I saw Joe Banner. Did you see Joe Banner's tweets?
Joe Banner acting like sort of putting it like Devontae Smith and his representative.
He said he should have fired his agent.
Are stupid. That's absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous, Joe Banner. It's absolutely absurd.
He was aggressive about it on social media.
In other words, Joe Banner thinks Devontae Smith is a dope. Joe Banner thinks that no. There are some people, Joe, who are happy when they say, that's the number I want to hit. I'm happy where I'm at. Let me get to it. Take it off my plate. Not everybody needs to squeeze every single freaking dollar out of everything.
Well, let's talk
Joe Banner may believe it.
Let's talk to Adam Schefter about it. Brought to us by Landis Block. Create your very own jaw-dropping backyard paradise online at landisbc.com. And he joins us on the Comcast Business Hotline. Every day in business is a big day. Let Comcast Business get you ready for what's next. From ESPN, the great Adam Schefter joins us. Shefty, good morning. How you doing today?
What is going on, Andrew and John?
It's another beautiful day. We had minicamp begin yesterday, the first time in the tenure of Nick Sirianni.
Mandatory
minicamp, so we'll talk to you about that. But first thing, you just heard John talking about Joe Banner a little bit because Joe Banner was critical of Devontae Smith's agent. The reason why that conversation even came up was the fact that Justin Jefferson got paid. CeeDee Lamb has not arrived to minicamp for the Dallas Cowboys. And it's another day for us to applaud Howie Roseman because he just gets this done early enough and these conversations don't even happen. How impressed are you with Howie Roseman when it comes to this?
Well, I didn't need these deals, the Justin Jefferson deal and the Nico Collins deal and the Jalen Waddle deal to get done to know that they did the right thing, getting these deals knocked out and moving on. Like, there was no doubt in my mind it was going to be the case, right? It was a case where they were getting ahead of the market. They were not having the market dictated to them. They were dictating some of the market more than the other way around. And so if you know that all these guys are signing deals, and by the way, we're not done on the wide receiver deals between CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase and maybe Brandon Ayuk and some of these other Tyreek Hill and Amari Cooper. Like there have been a ton of wide receiver deals, and there are going to be a lot more, right? So why would you not try to get your guys tied up and get them under contract if you can? And that's exactly what the Eagles and Howie Roseman did.
The idea of these new coordinators, it's so cool seeing a different approach. And Nick Sirianni has changed his tune. Last year, he was literally mocking people who said, well, you need motion in an offense. And now, yesterday, he's singing the praises of motion in an offense, as was Devontae Smith. I mean, this is Kellen Moore. Your thoughts on Kellen Moore overall? And what do you think that's like a home run hire? And has he ever had more tools at his disposal?
Well, strong coordinator to speak for a long time. He's got a great reputation. I think he's going to be a head coach one day. You have the opportunity to go hire a guy like that. Of course you go do it. And, the tools at his disposal, look, they're loaded on offense right now. They have a lot. But let's also be honest that they need the quarterback to get back to the way that he played in 2022, not in the second half of 2023. If he plays that way, I don't care how many weapons they have. They had a lot of these weapons last year, and it didn't do that much good in the second half of the season. And so that's why there is a new offensive coordinator. That's why they went out and signed Saquon Barkley, and that's why they went out and made the moves that they did. So, yes, again, I'm going to tie together a few of our conversations that we've had this offseason, but this team is positioned to win. It is positioned to have a great season, but it also needs the players, most notably the quarterback, to return to their former play. Because if the quarterback isn't playing at that level again, the team isn't getting back to the way that it played and won and produced back in 2022. I don't care how many changes and upgrades they made. They need the quarterback to get back to his great brand of football, MVP type level. He doesn't play at that level, but he's got to play at a higher level than he did in the second half of last year for sure.
What do you make of the Eagles having a mandatory minicamp this year? Nick Sirianni entering year 4 as a head coach, but this is year 1 where they have a minicamp. They hadn't done it the first 3 years. And look, they've made the playoffs all 3 years. They made it to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. So this is not me being critical that they have not had this already. But why this year? What do you make of it? Do you think it has something to do with the collapse of last season?
Yeah, I think it has something to do with the collapse of last season. I think it has something to do with the fact that, I think that some of the roster is turned around and we got a lot of young guys on the roster and you're trying to set a tone. And last year, what they didn't work. And so when last year didn't work and it's a lot of young guys, he's trying to set a certain tone and message. And I don't think you make it that, you make it so that it's mandatory, and that's exactly what they did. And so, mandatory minicamp, again, just part of the changes that they've made from one year to the next, and that's how it goes.
Andrew's declared war on ESPN's FPI. And Andrew.
Yes.
What are we worried about on FPI? Football, like, what are we talking about?
I don't believe that robots have emotions or the ability to have bias, except for when it comes to Philadelphia. And I see that the Dallas Cowboys have the 4th best chance to win the Super Bowl this year. The Eagles behind them, I think, 6th or 7th. And I don't need the Eagles to be number 1, but the Dallas Cowboys, 4th, Shefty?
Come on, it's dumb.
Well, I do not get worked up at all about power rankings and index. Like, who cares? I mean, I know it's fun fodder, it's fun conversation and stuff like that. So, but listen, maybe it makes good radio and all that, but I don't think it means a whole lot. I wouldn't get too worked up about it.
I would look at it though as this: is Dallas looks like they are in potential dumpster fire salary cap issues coming their way, with CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott having to be signed. And they also don't look like they've really improved from last year. Do you consider that a accurate view of where the Cowboys sit heading into the summer?
Yes. Well, listen, I don't love the Cowboys offseason. I don't love that they don't have a quarterback on their roster under contract beyond this year. I don't love the fact that the head coach was dangling the win and is still headed into the last year of his deal. I don't love the fact that they waited on the wide receiver market. They may not have had a choice there. That may have been what CeeDee Lamb wanted to do, but I don't love that. Like, there's a lot of things. Like, I like getting out in front of things. I like being aggressive. I like making things happen. I like adding to my roster. Did the Cowboys do any of those things this offseason? You tell me.
I think that the Cowboys look like a team that isn't ready to compete with the Eagles over 17 weeks.
Well, I still think they're pretty good, but I don't believe that they had the kind of offseason that they or their fans would like to have. It was very passive. It was very reactive. And it was not aggressive. It was not active. And now we'll see. That doesn't mean that they're not going to have a great year. Like Dak still can play at a top level. If he does that, by the way, if Dak plays at a top level and Jalen Hurts doesn't play at that top level, is Dallas going to be there with Philly? Yes. So, again, there are a lot of other factors, but I don't feel like they had as good an off season as they could have had. At least so far, it's June 5th. There's still more time, but it didn't go exactly as I think they had hoped. To me, if I were the Cowboys, I would have done everything I could to have a deal done with Dak right after the season, right before the offseason begins. I would have taken that added cap space. I would have upgraded my roster. I would have supplemented certain positions. I would have had CD Lamb done, if possible, weeks ago, when the Eagles were doing their deals. It's easy for me to say these things. I'm not sitting in their chairs privy to all the conversations they've had. And so some of these things may not have been possible. CD Lamb may have always been in the back of his mind saying, I'm not doing anything until Justin Jefferson gets a deal done. And now that Justin Jefferson has a deal done at $35 million a year, now CD Lamb can go engage knowing that the bar has been raised to a certain extent. That may have been just what he was doing. So even though I'm saying they should have had him done, there may have been nothing that Dallas could have done. But I think there's always a way you could be aggressive, get your guy to the table, get him thinking, talking, and see if you could bang it out before it gets late in the game and you're down.
Speaking of Adam Schefter on the Comcast Business Hotline, Shefty, a couple of weeks ago, you brought up Jalen Hurts and how he needs to play more like he did 2 years ago, and I completely agree with you. And today, you brought him up as well. So I want to ask you, it almost sounds like you still have some questions of Jalen Hurts. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it just sounds like you might still have some questions of Jalen Hurts. So I want to ask you, what do you believe are still the questions that Jalen Hurts needs to answer, and what do people say around the league that Jalen Hurts needs to answer? Because we did see last year he may have gone back to sometimes being a one-read quarterback, which I know was a concern coming out of college. He rolled to his right every time he sensed pressure last season, which is something he did his rookie season. So what is that question that you still have that still makes you seem a little, I don't know, I don't want to say concerned, but you still question Jalen Hurts?
Well, again, I'm just going back to the performance of last year. They, and it starts with him, but they didn't get the job done when they needed to. And the quarterback is the most important position in sports. So if your quarterback isn't playing to the level that you need him to, if your team's not winning, then, again, the year before, Jalen Hurts got a ton of credit, and he deserved it all. And when a team doesn't win, like they didn't last year, the quarterback is going to get blamed. Just how it works. And so more of that blame will come back to him than probably it should. He didn't play great in the second half of last year. Now, maybe it was because he was sick. Maybe it was because the coordinators weren't who they should be. Maybe it was because there was a letdown. There's a lot of factors. And, again, I think everybody's tried to figure out exactly what it could be, what happened, what went wrong, all those situations like that. We don't have an answer. But I can just tell you that if Jalen Hurts plays the way he did in 2022, the Eagles are going to have a great year. If he plays the way they did last year, I don't care how many upgrades they made, there's a question as to what kind of season they'll have. So a lot is riding on him and how he plays. That's all. I think that's a fair assessment.
Totally fair.
Totally fair.
I'm not the first person to say it.
Nope.
Other people have said it, and their season kind of rides with him. He's got to be good.
All right, last thing before we let you go. Is Vic Fangio in a better place here in Philadelphia? Because remember last year there were a lot of Dolphins players anonymously or some publicly that spoke out about maybe Vic Fangio and how it seemed like a great marriage between him and the roster that they had. Is that more of an indictment of the players that were with the Dolphins? Is it more of an indictment of Vic Fangio? And do you think it'll be better this year with the players that he has in Philadelphia?
Look, Vic Fangio is one of the best defensive coordinators in all of football. And Vic Fangio is an old school guy, okay? He has been around this game longer than most of these players have been alive. And so he's a certain kind of coach. To me, he's tremendous at what he does. Some guys have to accept that, understand it, accept it, respect it. You may not agree with it. You may not like it. You may want someone younger. You may want someone hipper. You may want someone cooler. You may want somebody, who's got a better fashion sense, whatever it may be. But the guy is undeniably a great defensive coordinator. He's old school, though. He's old school. So if you're not winning consistently, if your defensive numbers aren't what they might be, what you wanted, if you're not playing defense a certain way, of course somebody might get upset, might have their feathers ruffled. But, you have to understand what you're dealing with and who he is. And to me, like I said, he's one of the best coaches in football. I'm a Vic Fangio fan. We'll see how it resonates and works with young players. Some of them might not like that way. And so, and by the way, it's on Vic also to figure out a way that it works with those guys so that, that they embrace him and respond to him and react to him and get the most out of them. It goes both ways. But Vic is smart enough to figure that out. What makes these guys work and what pushes their buttons.
Absolutely. Shefty, thanks, man, as always. We really appreciate it. Always enjoy having our conversations with you, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, Shefty.
You guys have a great week. Take care,
buddy.
There he's Adam Schefter on the Comcast Business Hotline, brought to us by Landis Block. Create your very own jaw-dropping backyard paradise online at landisbc.com, and he once again brought up Jalen Hurts unannounced. So we're going to have to talk about that more, but it's time now for today's headlines with Connor Thomas.
Today's headlines with Connor Thomas.
What up, Connor?
Yo, boys. How we feeling?
Feeling good.
Schefter's got eyes on Hurts, man.
He
He's got eyes on Hurts.
He absolutely does.
And he said I'm not the first person to say it. All right, what do we got?
All right, so we're going to start with a guy that's not feeling too good today. We found out yesterday that Tucupita Marcano has been banned from baseball.
He had a little spice on that.
Well, I believe that's the pronunciation. But according to a Jeff Passan tweet, Marcano won only 4.3% of the 231 MLB-related bets he placed. That would be, of 231 bets, 10 of them won.
Okay, that's terrible.
That's horrible.
He deserves to be suspended for life.
I think he deserves to get off from this charge because that's basically, if I was to go, like if an NFL athlete went to FanDuel, it was just like, I want to donate $1,000 to your marketing campaign. That wouldn't be gambling. He's just basically always losing. So it's more of a donation to a sports book than it is actually gambling.
He's double stupid,
yes.
So I absolutely want him out.
How about this one? Jared Diamond covers, I guess, sports for the Wall Street Journal.
Okay.
I don't think he's not a beat. But he put out a gambling note. So Michael Kelly was also one of these players. Now, he's not banned for life. He's banned for a year. He's a reliever for the Oakland Athletics. Michael Kelly bet a total, not won a total, bet a total of $99.22 on MLB games, which cost him his entire salary of $740,000.
$99, eh?
So he gambled $99. Not won, not lost, gambled $99 and basically lost $740,000 because he gets kicked out for a year.
I gotta think he might be dumber. Yeah, that's dumb.
Like what?
That's dumb. It's absolutely. You are flat out stupid. You're just stupid.
The guy's dumb enough to throw away millions of dollars are also not smart enough to win their bets.
Yeah, I guess that might be
unreal.
true.
Yeah, so he's having a rough week. Speaking of maybe dumb things, you might think this. I stand with Jason Kelce, but he went on a Twitter rampage about soap. And here's a tweet from Jason Kelce from earlier this week. All of you have been washing every crevice of your bodies and hair all the time is somehow better or healthier. Any dermatologist not in bed with big soap will agree hot spots are all that is necessary. Now, you might ask yourself, what are hot spots? Well, on a previous episode of the New Heights podcast, Jason told us.
If you want to be honest with yourself, you really don't need shampoo or body wash to wash your body because soap is not necessary. Everybody knows, just go in there and rinse off. I haven't used soap on my arms, legs, feet in years, and I'm as healthy as an ox. The only things I soap on a routine basis are the hot spots. Let's hear them. Well, everybody knows what they are. It's the back end, the front end, and the armpits. That's it.
I agree with his terminology of hot spots. Those are the hot spots.
By the way, you're filthy if you do not soap your feet.
Nah. I ain't washing my feet, dude.
John?
Dude, that is absolutely filthy.
I'll be honest with you, man.
You do not wash your feet?
The soap from my legs runs down to the feet.
No, it doesn't.
Yes,
You're
it
in
does.
the fungus.
I watch it.
The floor of your shower is one of the dirtiest. John? It's one of the dirtiest places in your home.
Maybe the floor of your shower.
Yeah,
I eat off mine.
Keep your shower.
Yeah, you're sorry. Connor, I am betting you're not cleaning. Twice a month, you're probably cleaning the floor of your shower.
Twice a month? Try twice a year.
Yeah, seriously. So your feet are literally in a fungal nightmare.
See,
Why
this
would
is
I
a
clean the
fascinating
floor of the shower
conversation.
that cleans?
Right, exactly. I believe that I am a clean individual, but I am not scrubbing my feet. I don't have the time.
You don't have to scrub. All you have to do is just, even if on a routine basis, you spray like a scrubbing bubbles on the floor.
No, I'm saying my feet. Scrub my feet.
No, you have to clean your feet. You have to wash your feet.
The soap.
I've made it nearly 30 years, and I haven't had
the
to.
soap drips down from the shins down to the feet, and I'm covered.
I'll let you sniff them during the break.
Your feet are. No, I don't want anywhere near your feet.
And I'll scrub the feet like tonight. We usually play pickup basketball on Wednesdays. I'll scrub the feet because they're really sweaty. But on a normal day, I'm not really scrubbing the feet, John.
You're a fungal nightmare.
If I'm being honest, I'm not really scrubbing the feet.
I'm glad you're being honest. All right, but I do agree with the hot spots, everything other hot spot on Kelsey.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's right.
You got to take care of that.
That's right.
All right, coming up next, I guess we got to continue reacting to what Adam Schefter has to say about Jalen Hurts, because once again,
it keeps coming up.
He brought him up unannounced. We didn't bring it up. He brought it up again. So we'll talk about that coming up next. And I know you mentioned the betting. I want to get into that a little bit more because I have a question about sports gambling for athletes. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Home and Cast.
97.5 The Fanatic. I want to thank Adam Schefter for joining us as he does every single Wednesday at 8 o'clock. We got to expand on what Schefter said about Jalen Hurts. And again, don't forget, coming up at 9:10, we play our 5 best minutes from Adam Schefter. But just to remind you what we're talking about today, our jumping off point, whether or not we are overrating this Eagles roster, and if we're not questioning the defense enough. Jeff McClain from the Inquirer.com yesterday told us he has more questions about this team's defense than last year's defense, and last year's defense was 30 out of 32. So that's kind of alarming.
Well, maybe the questions is he had questions about them going into the season. And even Jeff McClain knows they're better. They're going to be better just by not being 30th.
Right.
Like he knows, but he's a guy who asks questions.
Yeah.
He's a guy who's skeptical.
Absolutely.
And he's skeptical by nature. He's supposed to be, by the way. He's not supposed to be fanboy.
He's not a fan.
He's not sitting here with a blog.
I saw another tweet from Tim Sullivan. I can't believe that at the level you guys are at, you're still listening to McClain.
That's
you should
amazing.
discuss your celebrity news you get from the Star magazine.
You mean Jeff McClain, who by his peers,
yes,
in the entire country, was voted the best at what he does.
Yeah, he won that award after this past season.
Best at what he does in the entire country. Tell me you don't know anything about sports journalism without telling me. That tweet would tell me that.
I still remember.
You know nothing of the industry if you think how respected he is and how he goes about his job. He's not a fanboy. Some people want fanboy media.
He was the first person to point out that Fletcher Cox was going to retire.
Yep.
And everybody was well, how would he know? Fletcher Cox hates him. He was right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very good. He's very good. That's why I love having him on. I'm glad that he's doing mornings with us now. Obviously for all the years with Anthony on middays, with me on middays, and now here on mornings. I love that we get to still have McClain on a weekly basis because he's absolutely tremendous. But you noticed something from future Eagle Micah Parsons?
Yeah, Jane Slater, who does a nice job covering the NFL. She asked Micah Parsons about his approach of not being dedicated to show up for off-season optional.
Yes, optional.
Optional OTAs. So optional training activities. So what he said was, he said, some people get paid a whole lot of money around here to be here. I'm not one of them. For them. He said.
That's damning.
He said last Thursday he wanted to attend his son's kindergarten graduation, so that day would have been a bit of a conflict. But other weeks, other days, other players are paid in their contract with incentives to be there. He is not. By the way, one of those players who has that in his contract is a guy who the Eagles cut loose and let go to the Jets.
Oh,
in Haason Reddick.
Yeah.
Haason Reddick passing on $250,000.
Must be nice. To not go to a few practices where they're not working hard, that's crazy to me.
$250,000. And so we're seeing some, let's just say, cracks in the foundation of maybe we don't know enough about what Haason Reddick, what Howie Roseman dodged. Now the Jets are finding out. But he also said he values his conversations with Mike McCarthy, Jane Slater. This is Micah Parsons. I value my conversations now with Mike McCarthy, who has taken on the challenge of talking to him since Dan Quinn left. So he didn't
talk to him. Well,
like Mike McCarthy didn't really talk to him.
That was Sirianni.
Status of the team and everything. Mike McCarthy didn't talk to some defensive players.
That was Nick Sirianni last year. That's part of the reason when he made the jump to being just the head coach when Kellen Moore got hired. He said, I'm going to be in on defensive meetings now. Yeah. That was literally Nick Sirianni. So I'm sure that happens all across the NFL, but it's crazy like how the head coach does not talk to defensive players.
I do picture this, though. From everything I've read about Vic Fangio, I guarantee if Nick Sirianni comes into a defensive meeting, Vic Fangio doesn't give a flip, and he's like, okay, you sit in the back and you be quiet. Oh, let me teach.
I'm sure he has to work a little bit with the head coach.
No, but I mean, he's like, this is my domain.
Right, I got you.
Well, we can talk about defense, but when I'm running a meeting and everything, supposedly his classroom stuff is very intense.
Yeah.
And I don't think he wants talk about growth and planting flowers and everything like that.
Right.
That's not Vic Fangio. He's about manure.
I'm going to dive deeper into this Hurts thing.
All right, yeah.
Like
and you're not stirring. You are not, depending on how we go with this, You are not stirring anything up.
No. I straight up asked Schefter. I said, hey, I don't want to put words in your mouth. But,
right, exactly.
And he did not deny anything.
He did not.
It's interesting that now on 3 different occasions, all 3 by himself. We didn't bring it up. The first time we were talking about Sirianni, and he said, why does everyone blame Sirianni and not Jalen Hurts? Like, he himself said that. And it's now been 3 different interviews with Schefter where he has brought up Hurts by himself. Is there something that we're missing? I know we've talked about Jalen Hurts. We talked about the leadership. We talked about him needing to play more like 2022 than last year. Are we missing something when the biggest insider of the sport keeps on bringing him up? Like, is he trying to dangle something in our face for us to catch bait?
Well, hopefully he's not dangling something in our face. But we absolutely can follow it and say Adam Schefter believes there is I think it's fair to say that there is not enough attention paid to what Jalen Hurts wasn't last year. Remember, he talks to everybody.
He does.
He hears things from everybody. Players, coaches, executives, whatever. There are questions that maybe we are not asking enough about what Jalen Hurts wasn't last year as much as we ask about what he was.
So I'll ask you guys both. Connor, again, you're Mr. Positive Vibes guy on this show. We should
call him Stubbs.
How are you watching? No, that's Ray Dunn. How are you watching Hurts week 1? Like, are you watching? I have brought this up multiple times. No excuses. I don't want to hear new OC. I don't want to hear, they didn't play in the preseason. How are you watching it?
I mean, I just want to see him win. I don't really care what he does week 1 because you're in another country playing a good team. The circumstances are so weird week 1 for the Eagles.
Fine, first 4 weeks.
First 4 weeks.
Because remember, it's always, it's just an extension of the preseason.
Right, first 4 weeks, you got to be more, like if there's a sliding scale and 2022 is at the top end, like you have to be closer to 2022 than you were to last year's performance over the first 4 games.
Okay, that's big of you. I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
No but you're Mr. Patience, and let's see how it plays out and all that. And as long as they're winning,
I think that's
because last year they were winning. They were 4-0.
It's the prudent approach that you state there.
Yes,
that's a very prudent. That's like a hot take-ish.
No, but here's why it's different with Hurts than the way I consume, like for example, Phillies baseball. And I think this is my perspective on what Adam Schefter's saying. It's not so much that he's worried about Hurts. I think he's just very zoned in on the fact that the quarterback position is insanely valuable.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you could put Jalen Hurts' 2022 version on the 15th best team in football this year, and that team might go to the whatever championship game.
If he played like 2022 last year, they're probably back in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but he might carry another team there. I think he's just so focused on Jalen Hurts because he's like, if Hurts gets right, there are no problems. And if he's not right,
I think that can be. But what I think is that a guy with his connections and a guy with his the way he's tied in, there are things that are then become sort of embedded in his brain.
Yeah.
So when he answers questions, he's talking from a position of great power of information.
You think Schefter's getting incepted by like GMs?
I think he's absolutely hearing from players, GMs, coaches, and everything that last year there were things that were an issue with Jalen Hurts.
I just feel like sometimes I'm the enemy of Philadelphia when I point out that Jalen Hurts regressed last year, which is accurate. Because what do we do? And I do it too. Our first thought is, Brian Johnson was really bad. Nick Sirianni was really bad. The locker room vibes were clearly really bad. Nobody first goes to Jalen Hurts and his play. And Adam Schefter has been doing that multiple times. Like, he says Hurts before he says the coordinators. Every Eagles fan in Philadelphia blames Brian Johnson before they blame Jalen Hurts. Is that correct?
Yes.
Or I should say majority.
No, the
vast majority.
Vast majority.
I have not heard many people say Hurts, there may have been issues with the coordinators. Yeah, they may have been issues with the head coach. That's what Schefter's doing, and he's by himself doing it. And I would, with all due respect to the Eagles faithful, I might listen to Adam Schefter before I listen to, Paul from the Northeast.
Yes, Adam Schefter knows a million times more. Adam Schefter knows so much significantly more than we know.
Right. So are we not questioning Hurts enough?
And we hear things. So It's unbelievable.
Are we not questioning Hurts enough? Text in, call in, 610-632-0975. I just got a tweet from Jay, literally just a second ago. Relax, you're reaching for news.
No.
I don't know if I'm reaching when Adam Schefter himself has brought up Jalen Hurts as part of the problem from last year 3 separate times without us even asking him about it. 3 separate times.
I do not think that is unfair of you at all.
And to Jay, to your tweet, I think he bounces back this year. He did have a down year last year, and they struggled last year. If he has another down year this year, do you not remember what Howie did with Wentz?
Yes, but I don't believe that's going to be.
Me neither.
Right.
But again, right away, it's relax. Don't pressure Hurts. Why? Are we not questioning him enough? Answer me that question on the phone line or the text line, 610-632-0975. Let's dive into that deeper. Coming up next, Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Now, around the bases.
Everybody have a safe trip into work today.
Oh, no. Everyone.
Well, you did it now.
Damn
There
it.
are tons of crashes.
I hope you...
Terrible.
Don't put that on me.
State of emergency.
I hope everybody is driving safely into work today. That would be nice. Damn it. I usually do it at 8 o'clock, but Schefty threw me off.
Unbelievable.
The Wednesdays throw me off because today's headlines gets moved a little bit, and then I don't wish people a safe driving to work. And I'm sorry.
So you're screwing people up.
I really hope you got to work safely, and if you didn't, if you got into a little bit of a fender bender, hopefully you're okay.
You may be entitled to financial compensation.
Yeah, and don't blame me for it, please.
Call Salciunas and Salciunas.
So we're going to play the best 5 minutes of Adam Schefter coming up at 9:10 as we do every single Wednesday. Right? We have him on at 8. We play the best 5 minutes at 9:10. But I want to keep diving into this thing where he once again brings up Jalen Hurts. And right away, I knew I would get something like this. My man Jay on Twitter says, relax, you're reaching for news. Like, no.
No, you're not.
Adam Schefter himself has brought up Jalen Hurts and how he has to play more like 2022, not like 2023, which I think that's like a duh, right? Like, I think we all...
Yeah, I think that's duh.
That's duh. Like, we all agree with that. So then when he says it, why is there pushback? Like, there shouldn't be any pushback.
Because people want to believe what they want to believe, and they want to hear positive. If they're one of those in that fan base, they don't want to hear critique. They don't want to hear any potential negative. They just want pom-pom shaking. Come on now, you should know this by now.
I do know that, but here's the deal. It's not like he didn't say anything egregious.
No, he didn't. And he said things that were factually based.
And he said things that clearly people around the league are saying. Like, it's not like he's just walking into his local Wawa and asking somebody what they think about Jalen Hurts. He is talking to people all across the NFL. And so my question for you all from now until the end of the show, text line and phone line, let me know if we have any texts coming in on this, Connor. Are we missing something with Jalen Hurts? Are we not questioning him enough? And I'm just asking, are we not questioning him enough? I'm not saying, does Jalen Hurts stink? Yes or no, 610-632. No. I'm asking, are we not questioning him enough? Because I think there are a lot of people that just have the foregone conclusion that he is this great franchise quarterback, and I believe he will play better than last year this year. I really do. But I think there are a lot of people that just go, don't worry about it, he'll be fine.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of that.
So let's talk about this. Let's go to Khalil in West Philly. What's up, Khalil?
Hey, what's going on? What's going on, fellas?
Good to hear from you, man. Good.
All right, now listen, right? I was talking to my friends a couple of years ago, and I told them, I said, when we got these 2 first-round draft picks, we need to trade them, move up in the draft, and get C.J. Stroud. That year we had them 2 first-round picks. I don't know if that would have been enough, but we needed to do something like that. I said, Jalen Hurts is not it. We went to the Super Bowl.
Wait, you said this after the Super Bowl?
I said this before the
Super Bowl.
Oh, okay.
Before the Super Bowl. We went to the Super Bowl. Everybody went crazy. 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, whatever.
Right, but Stroud was. So what I'm saying is, you were saying because Stroud was a rookie this past year.
He wasn't even in the league yet when I was saying.
Oh, okay.
But I was telling my friends this name, but they was looking like you're crazy. I'm like, no. You're looking at Jalen Hurts on the sideline. He don't even have that dog in him when he's telling his teammates, let's go, stop playing. You know what I mean? You want that from your quarterback. You don't want him over there with a towel on his head, sitting with the puppy dog face by himself, looking like a little punk. Like, man up. Get these dudes riled up and let's go play.
Khalil, that's not unfair, and you even saw it. We've seen it on camera, caught in the locker room, where Jason Kelce turns and goes, Jalen, this is your locker room now. Literally being like, it's up to you now. I'm done being the leader. It's your turn to be the leader.
But he should have been the leader.
No, you're right.
So you think the jury? You're not still sold on him, or you're not sold on him yet?
I'm not sold on him, man. Listen, I love Jalen Hurts.
Sure.
I like him as a guy. I like him as a man. If he look like he could be a cool friend. You understand what I'm saying? But it looks like he's the type of guy that don't want to go out with you when you want to go to the bar when your girl mad at you. You understand what I'm saying?
Interesting. All right, well,
that's a lot of disclaimers.
We appreciate the call, Khalil. All right, so first caller right away questioning Jalen Hurts.
I think Khalil just wants to catch the strays of the women that would be falling at Jalen Hurts.
That could be. Look,
Jalen's very happily.
He does
very happily not trolling the bars for women.
Yeah, but he would do well for himself, I imagine.
I think he would.
I feel comfortable saying that. I think
Moore.
I think he'd do just fine.
I think he would too.
All right, let's go to Brian in Dallas. Brian, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, Dawn.
Hey, Brian.
And, I don't want to say I don't want to sound like I'm doing pom poms from Jalen Hurts. I'm just going by facts, man. Listen, I had the same conversation with Tyrone last year in the beginning of the season, and that was this, right? You go by the man's body of work. Up, down, right, left, the man has won anywhere he's gone. Last year happened, right? But when you look at that, there's no team, nowhere. When you're a QB, a defensive end, or anything, and you question your leadership, it affects your play. When people talk about him pouting on the sidelines, like we saw him play in an offense that was creative, that had motion, that had, we would always tout him. This man's had different coordinators, and he's always won. We've seen what he could do with good coaching. All of us, all Eagles fans, including you guys, when it changed, we start questioning Sirianni when we thought he was great. We knew Brian Johnson was inexperienced, and what we kept talking to John most likely saying, this offense is not creative. It's boring.
Yeah.
What do you think that has on the quarterback? All the locker room stuff, I don't care what you say anywhere. When your leadership is not strong, it affects your entire team.
Yeah, but isn't part of the leadership on him as the quarterback?
And Brian, you know what part of the leadership?
No, hold on. Wait. Let me say this because you only give me 30 seconds. When you say he's a quarterback as a leader, I said it before. A quarterback of a football team is like a director in a corporation, right?
Right.
He gets his instructions from the vice president.
Yeah, but whoa. Wait a minute. Then I got to answer this because it's not true. Because then you go to the Seattle game. He was given instructions. He went against them. Him and AJ went rogue, and then he didn't have the. I want to choose my words carefully. He did not stand up and take responsibility for what he did.
Respect to the head coach.
He did not show respect to his head coach. He did not show respect to the play call. He wouldn't own it.
All right, let's continue this conversation. You can text in, call in, 610-632-0975. Are we not questioning Jalen Hurts enough? That's the question. Not what do you think of him. Are we not questioning him enough? When Adam Schefter has brought him up himself without being asked about it and saying that Hurts needs to play better this year. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Another win.
Morning, 97.5 The Fanatic. Coming up at 9:10, we play the 5 best minutes from Adam Schefter from our 8 o'clock conversation with Shefty. And once again, Adam Schefter brought up Jalen Hurts by himself. And you'll hear that during the replay, the best 5 minutes. But once again, Adam Schefter by himself brought up Jalen Hurts as a guy that needs to play better this year. And if he doesn't, the Eagles will not be as good as they were in 2022. I know that's a kind of a dust statement, but the fact that nobody's really talking about it except Adam Schefter over and over and over again, by the way, is alarming. It makes me question whether or not we question Hurts enough.
Listen, and just to put it is David goes, you were really word salad. You Sirianni'd your point of view on how Schefter answered questions. Explain it to us again. When you know things from a bunch of people that are very connected to a story, coaches, general managers, players, and you have that information, when someone asks you a question, the answer you give is going to be much more revealing than if you ask me the question or a guy on the street the question. When someone has that knowledge, they can't hide all that they know.
Right.
It comes into their answer. Because inherently, we all want to answer it as honestly as possible. I believe most people want to answer it as honestly as possible. He has no agenda. And he goes, are you telling me and assuring me that he has no agenda against the play of Jalen Hurts, or he's being told to attack Jalen Hurts? I would assure you he's not being told to attack Jalen Hurts.
He doesn't want to. He doesn't attack anybody. By the way, he also wants to still have the ability to reach out to these people to try to get information, right? I mean, that is
absolutely.
Bottom line is that's Adam Schefter's job, is to report on information. So he's not going to really have bad blood with many people, at least we don't think. I don't think he's attacking Jalen Hurts. I think he brings up what he hears. And when we asked, when it all started, it was a couple of weeks ago when it all started, we asked him about like the issues with Sirianni, if there are issues, blah, blah, blah. He brought up Hurts himself.
He did.
He was like, how come nobody blames Jalen Hurts? And he's right, though. He's not the first person it's not attack or blame, it's question.
But he's never first.
Never.
And maybe that's right. We're not saying that's wrong.
Right.
But he never is first.
All right, so do we have any on the text line about this, Connor? You can text the show 610-632-0975 or call in, of course.
Yeah, we do. We have a couple of people checking in on the Hurts thing. So, first-time texter Cliff from Sacramento says, Brian Johnson is to blame because of his predictable play calling. No QB had a chance in that offense last year, so they're not worried about Hurts as much.
Look, I blame Brian Johnson in the offense before I blame Jalen Hurts. I really do. But I did, with my eyes, see Jalen Hurts when there were guys open, not go to them. I did see Jalen Hurts the second he took a snap, roll right. And that could have been implemented. For all I know, that could have been a part of the offense. And then I just don't agree with that part of the offense. But I saw Jalen Hurts make mistakes. I saw Jalen Hurts not play perfect last year. And I can't make the case that the reason why he didn't play perfect last year, which he did 2 years ago, is strictly because of the offensive coordinator. Some of it may have been on Jalen Hurts himself.
Yeah, I think that is clear. And Jalen Hurts, again, wouldn't take responsibility when he actually had a beautiful play drawn up for him with two wide-open receivers that could have saved the game. And instead, he knew he was smarter than the room. So am I to believe? It's like when someone gets a DUI. When I hear someone I know has gotten a DUI, or I read that someone's gotten a DUI, I always assume, maybe incorrectly, this ain't the first time they've driven drunk. It's the first time they've gotten caught. I always assume.
Probably a fair guess.
And I think it's a very, very fair guess and rational guess. So I also believe that there were times last year where I bet Jalen Hurts went off script, and he may have cost the team.
And it also worked the Chiefs game. The Chiefs game, he went rogue.
And they talked about it. He went rogue, and it worked.
I don't want to say rogue.
No, he did. He went rogue, and it worked.
Yeah.
Correct.
So,
it doesn't always mean bad.
Right.
But obviously the communication was not there that you're like, screw that. I can tell you from everything I've read, Kellen Moore is not going to play that game.
Oh, also the guests that we've had that have called in, Jeff McClain himself said, yeah, he's not going to give him the whole playbook at the line of scrimmage.
There are certain offensive coordinators, guys like there are many, like Shanahan,
right,
like McVay, that do not allow my quarterback just wants to call something different. Now, McVay has let a quarterback like a Matthew Stafford have a little more range.
But maybe not Jared Goff early on in his career.
Correct.
All right, what else do we have on the text line, Connor?
Andrew from Georgia writes, yes, we need to be concerned about Hurts. He had one great year. So did Carson Wentz. How did that end? With the weapons he has, he can be a game manager, and we should still be very good. I'm not sold yet. I'm not saying he's terrible. I'm just not sure if he's a top 8 quarterback in the league.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. He got paid for 1 year. And that is not – I don't care if you think that's harsh. That's reality. He got paid for 1 good year.
He did.
His rookie season.
That's fair.
I've pointed it out on this show. There is a misnomer that once Shane Steichen took over, he started playing so much better. No, the team.
And that was his second year.
Yeah, I don't really. But that was his first year as a starter.
No, yeah. He had only started 4 games the year before.
Correct. The numbers weren't much better when Steichen took over. It's just the team was better, and they ran the football. If they didn't start winning football games because Jalen Hurts was dropping back and dicing defenses up for 400 yards, and Shane Steichen was calling the right plays. His second full season as a starter, his 3rd year in the league, was what got him paid. And he deserved to get paid for that performance. But then when you saw last year, he kind of reverted more toward 2021 than he did in 2022.
He most certainly
that's
did.
Fact. That's not being harsh.
2023 was more like 21 than 22. Period.
Yes.
Period.
And I think he'll be closer to 2022 this year.
Do you think there's people who saw him get that paycheck and say, oh, okay, the book's now out. Like, he's good. And just determined his skill level based on that?
I think a lot of people put him in a category unfairly with the likes of Patrick Mahomes because of how they played in the Super Bowl, because of how he played throughout that entire season. Patrick Mahomes won MVP that year primarily because Jalen Hurts missed 2 games, which I think is an egregious reason for you to not win MVP, especially when your team goes 0-2 in those 2 games.
That day, that Super Bowl day will be burned into my brain forever.
Yeah.
That performance. And the respect that I have for that is going to give Jalen Hurts so much more leash with me.
I got you.
Because on the biggest stage, in the biggest game of his life, he balled out.
But I think a lot of people,
I'm always going to respect that.
When he got paid, it was highest paid quarterback in the NFL for 5 minutes until I forget if it was Burrow or Herbert right after him. But I do wonder if a lot of people were like, all right, he's getting paid like those guys, so he's as good as those guys.
Right, but I don't think you can evaluate the quarterback position by paycheck anymore.
No, you shouldn't.
Because so many dudes get paid so quickly.
I rip it.
Yeah,
I think it's dumb. I think there are a lot of dumb NFL teams.
It's not because it's the market. Not any individual can be dumb in a market where everyone does the same thing. But you need to not value skill level based on paycheck for that position anymore, I don't think.
Okay, I got you. That's fair. All right, we've been talking a lot about Adam Schefter, so we'll let the man speak for himself. Here was our 5 best minutes from Adam Schefter earlier today. From ESPN, the great Adam Schefter joins us.
The idea of these new coordinators, it's so cool seeing a different approach. And Nick Sirianni has changed his tune. Last year, he was literally mocking people who said, well, you need motion in an offense. And now, yesterday, he's singing the praises of motion in an offense, as was Devontae Smith. Kellen Moore, your thoughts on Kellen Moore overall? And do you think that's like a home run hire? And has he ever had more tools at his disposal?
Strong coordinator to speak for a long time. He's got a great reputation. I think he's going to be a head coach one day. You have the opportunity to go hire a guy like that. Of course you go do. And, the tools at his disposal, look, I mean, they're loaded on offense right now. They have a lot, but let's also be honest that they need the quarterback to get back to the way that he played in 2022, not in the second half of 2023. If he plays that way, I don't care how many weapons they had. They had a lot of these weapons last year, and it didn't do that much good in the second half of the season. And so that's why there is a new offensive coordinator. That's why they went out and signed Saquon Barkley, and that's why they went out and made the moves that they did. So, yes, again, I'm going to tie together a few of our conversations that we've had this offseason, but this team is positioned to win. It is positioned to have a great season, but it also needs the players, most notably the quarterback, to return to their former play. Because if the quarterback isn't playing at that level again, the team isn't getting back to the way that it played and won and produced back in 2022. I don't care how many changes and upgrades they made. They need the quarterback to get back to his great brand of football, MVP type level. He doesn't play at that level, but he's got to play at a higher level than he did in the second half of last year for sure.
Shefty, a couple of weeks ago, you brought up Jalen Hurts and how he needs to play more like he did 2 years ago, and I completely agree with you. And today, you brought him up as well. So I want to ask you, it almost sounds like you still have some questions of Jalen Hurts. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it just sounds like you might still have some questions of Jalen Hurts. So I want to ask you, what do you believe are still the questions that Jalen Hurts needs to answer? And what do people say around the league that Jalen Hurts needs to answer? Because we did see last year, he may have gone back to sometimes being a one-read quarterback, which I know was a concern coming out of college. He rolled to his right every time he sensed pressure last season, which is something he did his rookie season. So what is that question that you still have that still makes you seem a little, I don't know, I don't want to say concerned, but you still question Jalen Hurts?
Well, again, I'm just going back to the performance of last year. They, and it starts with him, but they didn't get the job done when they needed to. And the quarterback is the most important position in sports. So if your quarterback isn't playing to the level that you need him to, if your team's not winning, then again, the year before, Jalen Hurts got a ton of credit and he deserved it all. And when a team doesn't win, like they didn't last year, quarterback is going to get blamed. Just how it works. And so more of that blame will come back to him than probably it should. He didn't play great in the second half of last year. Now, maybe it was because he was sick. Maybe it was because the coordinators weren't who they should be. Maybe it was because there was a letdown. There's a lot of factors. And again, I think everybody's tried to figure out exactly what it could be, what happened, what went wrong, all those situations like that. We don't have an answer. I can just tell you that if Jalen Hurts plays the way he did in 2022, the Eagles are going to have a great year. If he plays the way they did last year, I don't care how many upgrades they made, there's a question as to what kind of season they'll have. So a lot is riding on him and how he plays. That's all. I think that that's a fair assessment.
Totally fair.
Totally fair.
I'm not the first person to say it.
Nope.
Other people have said it, and their season kind of rides with him. He's got to be good.
All right, last thing before we let you go. Is Vic Fangio in a better place here in Philadelphia? Because remember, last year, there were a lot of Dolphins players, anonymously or some publicly, that spoke out about maybe Vic Fangio and how it seemed like a great marriage between him and the roster that they had. Is that more of an indictment of the players that were with the Dolphins? Is it more of an indictment of Vic Fangio? And do you think it'll be better this year with the players that he has in Philadelphia?
Look, Vic Fangio is one of the best defensive coordinators in all of football. And Vic Fangio is an old school guy, okay? Been around this game longer than most of these players have been alive. And so he's a certain kind of coach. To me, he's tremendous at what he does. Some guys have to accept that, understand it, accept it, respect it. You may not agree with it. You may not like it. You may want someone younger. You may want someone hipper. You may want someone cooler. You may want someone, who's got a better fashion sense, whatever it may be. But the guy is undeniably a great defensive coordinator. He's old school, though. He's old school. So if you're not winning consistently, if your defensive numbers aren't what they might be, what you wanted, if you're not playing defense a certain way, of course somebody might get upset, might have their feathers ruffled. But, you have to understand what you're dealing with and who he is. And to me, like I said, he's one of the best coaches in football. I'm a Vic Fangio fan. We'll see how it resonates and works with young players. Some of them might not like that way. And by the way, it's on Vic also to figure out a way that it works with those guys so that, that they embrace him and respond to him and react to him and get the most out of them. It goes both ways. But Vic is smart enough to figure that out. Makes these guys work and what pushes their buttons.
All right, there's our 5 best minutes of Adam Schefter. You can hear the entire interview again on 97.5thefanatic.com. So we get back to it. He brought up Hurts by himself.
Not prompted.
Did not ask him about it. Yep, not prompted. And then I straight up asked him. I was like, dude, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you question Jalen Hurts. And he does. Like, he didn't deny it.
No.
He didn't say, oh, don't worry about it, he'll be fine. He said, yeah, he's got to play better than the way that he did last year, which I think we all agree he needs to play better than he did last year.
Yeah.
But
I guarantee you Jalen would say that.
Yes, I think so. But everyone's first thought is to blame the coordinators and everything else that unfolded and not Jalen Hurts himself. And so my question for you on the phone line and text line, 610-632-0975, is not whether or not you think he stinks or whether or not you think he needs to play better. My question for you is whether or not we question Hurts enough. Do you believe that we do, John Kincade?
Yes. I believe the quarterback in this town is always going to get questioned a lot.
I think you're full of it.
No, I really don't. I think he gets.
You think he gets questioned enough in this city?
Yeah, I do. I don't think he gets. How about this? I don't think he gets criticized.
Okay,
enough.
fair.
Questioned? I think he does. Criticized? No.
Yeah, we've
I do not believe.
We've talked about quarterbacks.
I think he gets. Yes, we have treated quarterbacks in this town very poorly.
Yes,
many, many times. He has gotten soft glove treatment compared to almost every other Eagles quarterback that has come before.
I heard people say he was the greatest quarterback in Eagles franchise history after 2022.
Don't even get me started. And you and I, though, share the same thing.
McNabb,
We're both McNabb guys.
Yeah.
And I think that anybody who isn't a McNabb guy, I'd sort of like to hear who they're going to tell me is the best quarterback.
That doesn't mean that Hurts can't be one day.
No.
He can be, but he's not there yet.
Can I see give me 4 more NFC title games.
Right.
Give me more. Show me more before I'm ever going to put you ahead of Donovan McNabb.
Give me 2 more years of 2022, not a year of like 21 and then a year like 23.
And to be clear, I'm not betting against Jalen Hurts at all that he could deliver that.
Oh, I'm going to take his over in a lot of props this year.
I absolutely think he's going to have a fantastic year. But do I believe that people get up in their feelings about Jalen Hurts, and I don't truly understand it. But people who question his leadership, I would just say to you, there were some flaws last year that showed. I was knee deep in SEC football when he was there.
Right.
And I will tell you, I never heard anyone do anything but hold him up as a standard bearer for leadership as far as players want to follow him. Players understand his work ethic. Players understand his attitude. So I roll my eyes when I hear people making too big a deal of that. You don't have to be the verbal leader all the time, and that's something that I fall into that trap. I fall into the trap of being the guy who wants my leader to be more verbal.
Yeah,
and I think
that was a topic we had.
We did. We just
early on in this show,
and I still value it more than other people do. But I have never heard. I heard Nick Saban. I interviewed Nick Saban gushing about Jalen Hurts and the kind of guy he was. By the way, after Jalen went to Oklahoma.
Right. This is after he transferred, yeah.
What kind of a great leader he was. So I roll my eyes at that.
I absolutely. I'm with you. What do we have on the text line there, Connor?
SD in Mullica Hill checks in, says Hurts,
the old stomping grounds.
There you go. Hurts' body language last year combined with his substandard performance has the Eagles fan base a bit freaked out, it seems.
Yeah, but is the fan base freaked out? I don't sense
think
that.
They are.
I really don't sense that. I sense that a lot of people think last year was all Brian Johnson, Nick Sirianni's fault, and everything's. You've talked about the blip in the radar, and I agree with you. I think last year was a blip in the radar. I don't agree with SD, and I would like to ask who SD actually is, because maybe I might know SD, Mullica Hill. That's where I grew up.
Be.
Okay, what do you want, his address?
No, just
phone number, so we can just text him personally.
I have the phone number
text
already.
in the name. It doesn't go out publicly. Just you're the only person that sees it.
I'm messing with you.
I don't think I don't think people are freaking out.
I
don't think they are.
Who?
Freaking out?
Here's the thing. It's been such a roller coaster, guys. Like, we just saw Hurts kind of be drafted to be a backup and then take over quickly for a guy you paid big. And then, after his first year as a starter, being yelled at, he can't read a defense, he becomes arguably the best player in football. They go to the Super Bowl, and then they have one of the craziest collapses in NFL history. Like, I think people just don't know which way is up anymore with this organization. And you have belief in the players and the coaches and the organization, but you don't because the way it collapsed, because you can't trust anything. I think if we look back at Jalen Hurts' tenure as the starting Eagles quarterback, you should be really questioning of everything, good and bad.
Yeah. What's real, what's not.
You should.
And that's why, like, freaking out isn't always bad.
I don't believe freaking. I believe.
I haven't gotten that.
I believe he has the least amount of freaking out of maybe any quarterback I've ever seen in Eagles history.
I agree.
That just has the blind nod the heads and everything's okay here with Jalen Hurts that I've ever seen.
Hashtag he's him.
Yep.
Right?
I'm sure there'll be a new slogan coming out soon.
All right. Coming up next, we have a photo on the text line. Connor, is that correct?
Apparently. I don't know where this is from.
All right. We have a photo on the text line. John has no idea what that is. And
a photo on the text line?
I didn't know you could send photos onto the text line. But we have a photo on the text line that Connor will bring up coming up next. I'm very intrigued by it. And also, you said something to me during the 5 best minutes with Adam Schefter, and I'm glad we're on the same page of this one. The new head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers.
Oh, geez.
I will be rooting against.
Oh, join
strongly.
The club.
It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
The Phil's walk it off.
97.5 The Fanatic. Still to come, we have the Kincade and Salciunas Key 3 best minutes from today's show, followed by our crossover with Bob Cooney. Our man Jay's been waiting for a little bit, so let's go to Jay, and then we have a text message of a photo. I didn't know that you could send text to Connor.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
On the text line. And then our mutual disdain for a new head coach in the NBA. But let's go to our man. He's been waiting for a little bit. Our man Jay in West Philly. What's up, Jay?
What's up, y'all? Let me
Hi,
get
Jay.
my Phillies point. I had a Phillies point, and I want to get that in. But
Okay.
Jalen Hurts thing sound like Schefter. Sound like Jalen took his parking spot at Novocaine.
you think that? But you're like, he's brought it up 3 times. I mean, you can listen. Like, we haven't brought it up once. He brings them up himself.
Exactly. He brought it up. Don't forget about the quarterback. The good is this. Look, he took his parking spot or something where he ain't answered a question or something. Like,
well, then that leads me to ask the question, Jay. Do we not question Hurts enough?
We question him every day.
I think we do.
Yo, he could go 30 for 32 with 5 touchdowns, 380. They go say, you see those 2 incompletions he had?
No, it's not like that, dude. I've seen him go 2 for 30, and it's. Did you see those 2 passes he completed?
See what I'm talking about?
I think he gets questioned.
Since he's been here. He's won since he's been here.
I think he gets
Playoffs
questioned a lot,
years.
Jay, but not criticized. And no,
Exactly. And everybody talking where he had on his list. I don't need him to be no top 5 quarterback. All I need him to do is win for the Phillies.
Absolutely. I got you.
That's all I need him to do. Now, my Phillies thing. This is for you, McAble and Painter and the booth who won't answer my texts. Now, what's the difference between Sirianni and Rob Thompson?
What's the difference? I don't know.
They both did the same thing. They both took their teams to the championship. They both came back next year, didn't make it back there, and both their teams go.
Wait.
Those collapses are not even
Don't put
close.
last year. No.
They're not even close.
Jay, come on.
They lost 6 or 7 in Arizona, right? That's a collapse.
Brother, the Eagles.
Right?
The Eagles
went what? The Eagles had the worst collapse ever.
And they didn't show up to a playoff game.
Come on, Jay.
No leeway.
Come on, Jay.
You're
Jay,
insane.
I criticized Rob Thompson, I think, maybe even too much. But I will tell you,
believe that
but I think it's absolutely ridiculous. That's
anyone out there want to take a wild guess why I'm not answering all of his text messages on the air?
Now, is he the one that sent you the photo?
No, he's not.
What photo did you?
I don't even know what this is. John might know what this is, but we got a text message of what appears to be a John Kincade yearbook photo. I'm trying to find out if there's. Yeah.
That doesn't look like you.
Bob in Dub C. I don't know if that Dub C is for Westchester.
Westchester?
Yeah.
Did you send it to John?
I sent it to you, and I sent it to Haley to put it on the YouTube. I will send it to John now because I didn't want him to have a
you
I've
didn't want to
seen
see.
pictures of you
I didn't want to
younger.
give it away.
This does not look like you.
Let me see. You got to send it.
Show it to him, Andrew. Just show him your phone.
Here you go.
It's much quicker than me.
No, that's not me.
That's not him. I did not think that was him.
That is not me.
Okay, then we have a false yearbook photo.
That's funny, though.
It looks kind of like him.
No, that's not me.
It does not look like John
No.
at
That
all.
guy looks like 10 years older than I looked at 16.
Hey,
was it a college
This guy's
photo?
got nice
was it
hair.
Temple?
No.
No,
That's not me.
this does not look like John.
That's not me at all.
Because I think that looks.
No, I mean,
like him.
really. I'll show you. I'll show Andrew a college picture from
Well, I've seen
my
I've
college
seen
graduation.
pictures.
My college graduation picture.
Trust me,
I'm
showed
tripped
me.
out. This is a doppelganger. Then
No, but that's
No,
you know
dude,
what's
this
funny
doesn't
is,
look like him at all.
what's funny is I think somebody else at some time has sent me that picture. I
well,
know
there
that,
must be another John Kincade in the area.
that somebody has sent me that picture and thought it was me. It
you
is
said
not.
there's a million Kincades.
Yeah, there are.
Or you've like 6,000 cousins on your street itself.
Here's college graduation morning.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, not even close.
No,
Okay.
I mean it's not even.
I don't know.
No, but that's what's funny is I think I've had people say that to me before. That that guy looks much more rugged.
Well, good for him.
I'll put
I
it
guess.
that way. Yeah, good for him.
All right, so you said something to me during the replay of Adam Schefter. I'm so glad that you did. And again, it scares me that you and I are finding things that we agree on.
Yeah, we find things. I think we agree on more than we. But what we disagree on, we vehemently disagree.
Yes, and I like that more. The things that we don't.
The vehemently disagreement.
But I am glad that somebody else sees the light. Because there are a lot of you that are absolutely duped by this guy and have been duped by this guy. And I have been fighting an uphill battle with very few people behind me over the last couple of years. And I'm glad that you, as well as me, and I wonder if Connor will be rooting against JJ Redick as the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers.
Oh.
I don't like JJ Redick.
Absolutely don't like is maybe even soft for me.
There's a lot of things, and there's reasons why. There has been a reported under the table, and again, I don't know exactly what's fact, but there's a reported under the table handshake agreement that he would have signed an extension with the Sixers, and that's why they paid him a little extra money at the beginning. And then he decided to take a bigger contract to be closer to his family. I'm not a geography expert. What is closer to Brooklyn, Philadelphia or New Orleans, Connor?
It's tough. I got to go with Philly.
So I'm saying rat move.
Okay, so
that's a rat move.
You guys are absolutely right. Is that the only reason you don't like JJ?
No,
Redick?
I think he's an arrogant, condescending.
Yes,
I know more than just listen to how smart I am. Let me tell the fans don't understand. Let me wear my sunglasses in my kitchen.
Okay, now that last one.
That is just the
Colin Cowherd thing.
No, but that all adds to. Wait a minute. Whoa.
Yes, it is.
No, backwards cap and backwards cap and wearing your sunglasses in your indoor kitchen.
Oh, whatever.
Completely
Maybe
different.
he's got big bay windows.
I have no problem.
Leave him alone with
I
the
have no
sunglasses.
problem with backyards cap. He does not have a problem with lighting. Give me a freaking break.
We don't know that.
Oh, jeez. So all the other times he's got bright lights on him on television and otherwise.
I wore my sunglasses for my entire Saturday show last week.
That's
all
good.
3 hours.
I wouldn't be shocked.
You were probably hungover.
You got a little JJ Redick DNA to you.
Well,
let's be honest.
And here's the other thing. So I don't like when JJ Redick was traded from the Pelicans to the Mavericks. He put up this big stink. He thought he deserved the respect to be able to pick where he should have been traded to.
JJ Redick did. Are you serious?
No. And then the arrogance, I love when people celebrate when he talks back to Stephen A. Smith on First Take and stuff. If you ever listen to his podcast, he is extremely arrogant and talks down to everybody who listens.
Yeah. Let me explain what you don't understand about the game.
And
I've talked sports with some of the most intelligent people, much more accomplished in their sports than JJ Redick is. And they never spoke in that way.
And then my biggest beef, the biggest one out of all of them, because of his connections alone, he was able to have a sit-down, bottle of wine podcast with Ben Simmons and did not actually interview him.
No, he licked his boots.
He actually said, I understood why you passed it to Matisse Thybulle. And, dude,
he licked his boots.
As a guy who says he knows basketball so much, there's no way you actually believe with what you said.
I can counter this easily with one argument. Okay. So easily, and I can't believe you guys are missing this. The podcast that LeBron and JJ Redick do together, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Right.
How great is that going to be the day after LeBron fires JJ Redick?
Oh, it's going to be fantastic.
Do you want to see JJ Redick fired on a podcast? That'll be the greatest moment in NBA history.
I do.
When people in the media are so thirsty to be the first one to get the story or the first one to do it, that they're willing to compromise their integrity, like with the Ben Simmons one.
Yes.
I ripped it at the time, and I'll rip it again. When you're willing to lick boots in order to get access to a guy like Ben Simmons to tell his story, and you won't call him out on things, won't question him on things, you literally just bring him on because, oh, gosh, I get to be first.
Yeah.
That's absolutely bottom line pathetic.
I get what you guys are saying. I don't really have a strong argument against any of the reasons you don't like him. I've just always kind of liked JJ Redick, and I wouldn't root for him as a player because of the Philadelphia thing. I think that's totally fair. Mm-hmm. But as a coach, I think he's a sharp basketball mind. And I don't think he's just getting this opportunity because he knows
I don't think he's dumb or anything.
No.
I
He knows the game of basketball
bright.
very clearly. He knows the game of basketball. We'll see if it translates into coaching because we have seen other great basketball players, other great basketball minds not be able to coach well.
Yeah, but also my favorite college football player of all time was Johnny Manziel. That's the type of personality that I find interesting. I don't think they're great people altogether, but I just think that that's fun to watch.
And look, I've been honest. Part of my disdain for JJ Redick is the ex-girlfriend thing. He would have been perfect. They needed him.
Right.
When he left, they lost a 3-point shooter, which would have helped spacing.
Which is fair.
So it's a lot of it is the ex-girlfriend thing.
I'm never going to fault you on that because you're absolutely correct. I was just interested where this feeling about JJ Redick comes from.
So I will root against him. One of the things that I hated the most, and I love my fellow Philadelphians. He did not deserve a standing ovation when he did that game for ESPN.
No, he did not.
He got a standing ovation,
which is just
during one of the timeouts. Like JJ Redick getting a standing ovation.
For what? For what?
You two aren't exactly the authority in the city on ovations right now.
Well, I think
I was pro Hoskins ovation.
And by the way,
don't steer the story.
Last night
I was pro Hoskins ovation, just not cheering a home run.
Last night was perfect.
Who could have guessed it would have been?
But last night was perfect. I think the way the fans handled it last night. Still gave him a lot of love at that first at bat and everything. And from that point on, they treated him like the opposition.
And I was happy
I loved it
for Hoskins that the home run was hit after the fact when the Phillies won. I was not applauding a guy for hitting a home run and making it a 3-1 ball game. I saw your tweet from a very bright man, a lawyer.
Yes.
Slippin' Benny put out the tweet.
Slippin' Benny really made it. I mean, he just is like, I can't believe that we're doing it. He said yesterday quickly, the Reese thing's simple to me. Give him the standing ovation. You do not cheer him hitting the home run in the moment, and you appreciate how cool the thing was after the fact. Not sure how there can be so much debate about
this. Which
is
exactly what we said yesterday.
And that's word for word.
And Bob Cooney storming in here during the crossover yesterday.
Oh, no, I got blamed.
You're what's wrong with Philadelphia Sparks.
On the show yesterday, I got blamed for it, that it was like my take only. Somehow your name just missed it. It was the Bash Kincade
I was there the whole day.
I don't know how it didn't happen.
I was very honest with my opinion. I was very vocal about it.
You were very vocal about it.
Oh, man. All right. Well, speaking of Bob Cooney, our crossover with Bob coming your way next. Also, the Kincade Salciunas Key 3 right here. 97.5 The Fanatic.
Tyrone Johnson.
Crossover with Bob Cooney coming up in a few minutes. But right now, it's time for the Kincade and Salciunas Key 3.
Now, the Kincade Salciunas Key 3. Today's best.
Jeff McClain at the end of our conversation yesterday.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jeff.
Said something that's just been burnt into my mind.
I always write stuff down as we go. I'll write stuff down and I'll say, okay, I heard this. Let's see if we can spin it into something later. When he talked yesterday about overvaluing the roster, he has more questions about this year's roster. I wondered to myself, are we overvaluing? You use the expression sometimes, are we looking to it through like Eagles colored glasses,
yes.
Phillies colored glasses? I tend to believe that I don't, and I also tend to believe that over the years of consuming Jeff's product, that he is more skeptical than most.
I believe so, yeah.
Not negative.
Not hater.
But he's skeptical. Yeah. He wants to see it before believing. And it's clear he believes less going in. He needs to see more out of it.
Which is interesting when the team was 10-1 at one point last year, had the collapse that it did.
That is correct.
And I think everybody has had the same sort of mentality that it'll be better this year. I said NFC Championship game appearance or bust just last week to you guys. I wonder when we have the SB or B conversation. So they're 43-19. 43-19, identical record with the Yankees, best records in Major League Baseball. I mean, think about it. We get to talk about our team having the best record in baseball, man.
Connor said yesterday, it's like, well, they got like 100 games left. Well, today they actually have 100 games left. There's 100 games left. Play 500 ball, they win 93.
Yeah, you've been doing this for a couple weeks now, and I love it.
500 balls
keeps going up and up and up.
Now, too, Phillies play 500 ball the rest of the way. Only 5 teams in their over 100 and some year history have been better than 93 wins. 5.
It's from ESPN. The great Adam Schefter joins us. Shefty, good morning. How you doing today?
Look, they're loaded on offense right now. They have a lot, but let's also be honest that they need the quarterback to get back to the way that he played in 2022, not in the second half of 2023. If he plays that way, I don't care how many weapons they had. They had a lot of these weapons last year, and it didn't do that much good in the second half of the season.
It's skeptical. I mean, he's literally straight up saying he has more question marks about this year's defense compared to last year's defense, which was what? Ranked bottom third?
No, bottom third. They were 30th out of 32 teams.
Right, okay. So worse than bottom third.
And that is where I think that Jeff's not being negative, he's being skeptical.
No, he's being skeptical, but that scares me when he's pointing out that he has more questions for this defense compared to a defense last year that was ranked 30th out of 32 teams last year.
That horrifies me.
So question number 1 for the audience today, are we overrating this Eagles roster and are we ignoring the defense too much? So it's kind of a 2-part question. The reason why I say are we overrating this Eagles roster, I think we all have the same mentality that we had last year. Oh, well, the offense will overcome any of the defense.
Absolutely.
We said that last year. What happened?
Absolutely did.
What happened? It didn't overcome.
Well, it did until it didn't.
Until it didn't.
It's one of those things. It's what I always say.
It didn't.
Is that when people tell you little things don't matter, they matter. They end up mattering at some point. It's just a matter when it's going to come back and bite you in the backside.
Thank God Rhys Hoskins got out in the 9th inning.
Multiple times last night.
Yeah, but in the 9th inning, I did not want to see him do something well and then fans cheer about it.
He did get some boos last night, though.
Good. He deserved them. He's not a Philly anymore.
Yeah.
We got the flowers out of the way in game 1, all right?
Vic Fangio comes in. The minute he walks in the door, just walking in the door, they're going to be the 20th.
Right.
They're going to be so significantly better just having his guidance that 30th becomes 20th.
Right.
And then it's a matter of can he really take them, though, from 20th, and I talked about it earlier, is top 12.
Top 12.
That's
the mark.
He tends to deliver around that on average.
Right. And look, if you can get top 12 and if your defense is or offense, and I said this to you last week,
top 3.
This offense should be top 3. There's no excuses for it. Don't give me new coordinator, no preseason, no continuity. No, there's actually plenty of continuity. The only guy that's new is Saquon Barkley. No excuses. This offense should be top 3. And if you give me a top 12 mark defensively, they should get to the NFC Championship game. All right, that's the key 3. And during the entire key 3, we've been debating. I'm not going to bring it up because we're going to be
talk about it today.
We're going to be listening during the midday show with Bob Cooney. But I'm just saying, your topic is so good that we debated it during the entire key 3.
And it can go a million directions.
Oh, is this the washing your feet conversation?
Yes.
No, well, you both not washing your feet is filthy.
You wash your feet?
Yes.
You wash your feet. You put a washcloth and you just rub your feet. Like, you don't have to do it. Like, I'm not talking about
you asked me this earlier. Yeah, we have a little sitting area in our shower.
Right.
I put my foot up on that sitting area, and while I'm washing, I wash my feet also.
So, of your minimum 7 showers a week, because everybody should shower. Or look, Ray's over there.
I'm 14 times a week.
That's why I said minimum 7.
I got to do
of
2
your
a day.
minimum 7. Do you wash your feet all 7 times?
There's some showers that I get in and out real quick.
That's what I'm saying.
So, yeah.
That's not a focal point.
I don't wash
no,
them
in the
twice a
morning when
day.
I'm going to work or something, sure. That's part of the routine.
Yes.
Now I was walking
Without even
around here.
thinking about
I was walking around here in my flip flops yesterday, feet unwashed.
You're gross.
Why?
That's
Because
really
you're
gross.
just gross.
The water runs down, the soap runs down from the shins.
But you're in the dirtiest part of your house. Is either the toilet seat or
yeah,
the
I was going to
floor
say,
of your
I think
bathroom.
there's dirtier parts of my house than my shower. I wouldn't roll around a crawl space.
You have a cat, so the kitchen counters maybe.
Or his litter box.
Because the litter box
basement.
gets brought right to your kitchen counters and your tables.
What do you got on the show today, Bobby?
Clean feet. I got Ray Dunn joining me in studio today. So Stats Monarch is going to be producing us. Yeah, we got a lot going on. We're going to have Matt Breen's going to join us at 1 o'clock. Todd Zalecki said he's going to try to check in as he's getting ready to go to London today, I believe. So we'll take a look at all that and also listen a little bit to what the Eagles had to say yesterday because our initial reaction yesterday, because we carried the press conference live, was different, we should say.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Different.
I like that Nick Sirianni has this new offensive coordinator. He says, "Oh my God, that was really cool what you just did there. Wow,
Yeah,
that was neat. Can you do that again?"
My 6:30 segment started off by saying I'm vindicated.
Yes.
Because Nick Sirianni talks down to everybody. We don't motion just to motion. Oh, look at what Kellen Moore does. He motions.
Yeah,
Devontae Smith exposed
points out that motion is cool and that getting open in space is cool and not just running bubble screens.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird, like how I'm okay just being the guy hanging out and like I'll stop in on a defensive meeting and I'll look in and say, wow, that's a really cool play you're running on offense. It's interesting.
Bob deciphers a press conference, what's important, what isn't, better than probably anyone I've worked with.
I believe Sirianni is still here because he said yes, sir.
Can I have another?
Could be. Very well could be.
And Doug Peterson did not.
Yep.
Go wash your feet, Andrew.
Please.
Maybe.
All
What
right,
do we got,
awful.
Johnny?
Hey, support life-saving cancer research. Join us and our generous partner, H&H Heating and Air Conditioning. Everybody there washes their feet. And make a donation today to the American Association for Cancer Research. You can do it at 975thefanatic.com/AACR. I'm living proof 3 times over. The cancer research saves lives.
Bob Cooney coming your way next is the midday show for Stinky Feet.
You're awful, man. You and Connor.
Me and Connor. Everybody have a
Stank.
great rest of your day. Kincade Salciunas will be back at it tomorrow on a Thursday morning. 97.5 The Fanatic.